hasn't had its To listen, just go to radiolemans.com. You don't need an app or a download. It's motorsport 24 hours a day, every day. And remember, we have a huge archive of motorsport audio ready when you want to listen. Live, on demand, on download. 3 ways to listen, 1 place to go. radiolemans.com.
And a very warm welcome to everyone listening to Radio Le Mans, but also everyone on Nismo TV as well, joining this broadcast for the final round of the season for the Japanese Super GT Championship. It's Motegi. It's going to be for around 2 hours, this final race of the season, and looking forward to the end, the culmination of what has been a cracking season for 2014. New rules, new cars for GT500. And thankfully, it's not just me, Johnny Palmer, taking you through this. Fairly new to this championship, but very much looking forward to the final round of the season. But also I'm joined by Sam Collins, who knows a little bit more about the technical nature of these cars. What's your title nowadays? Editor of... Give me your
Deputy editor. I was just waiting for you to upset Andrew Cotton.
That's what I was worried about. I don't think I'm going down the right line here. Deputy editor of...
Race Car Engineering.
Race Car Engineering, thank you.
Which
yes.
we do cover Super GT quite heavily. Big championship, big deal for us, and it's really great to be here for the final round here at Motegi.
Yeah.
It is a sunny day, which is very rare in this part of the world.
Okay.
Every time previously at the track, it's always been raining, and this time it's not. So it could be quite an interesting race with the tyres, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on.
I think... that's kind of borne out by the fact that there's a number of people there as well come out to witness this final round of the season. Clearly 2 championships to be decided, not only in the main championship, which you were describing to me a little earlier on before we came on air. They're kind of like DTM cars, so if people are familiar with the DTM category, that's the way things have gone in 2014, and that's GT500. And there are, 15 cars that have already qualified for the race today. There's also GT300, which are more like GT cars, like a British GT car, I suppose. Is it GT3 or slightly
It's a little bit more complicated. I'll start with GT500. Well, the class structure is overall. GT500 was originally intended for cars that have about 500 horsepower. Hence the name.
Okay.
And GT300 was a second-tier class mainly for tuners and local Japanese companies like Mugen and companies like that. And they were 300 horsepower cars.
Yep.
Things have evolved since that time, and particularly in 2014, there's been quite a lot of change. For GT500, completely new rulebook this year. They've adopted basically what is the DTM rulebook with one key exception, which is the engine. They haven't gone for those old-fashioned 4-litre V8s that the Germans use. Mm-hmm. They've gone for the new spec, 2017 spec, inline 4-cylinder 2-litre turbocharged engines to make their 500-plus horsepower. They make about 550 now.
Right.
And one of them, the Honda, is also a hybrid, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. Then in GT300, you have a real mix of cars. What we see in Motegi, one of the types of cars isn't going to be in this race, and I'll talk about that again later on during the race, but we have 2. We have the GT3 cars, which are exactly what you're used to in Europe, except they're it's a tyre war class. So they've got multiple tyres. Not everybody's on the same type of tyre, which is what you would see in Blancpain on one of those European championships, or even in the Pirelli, obviously World Challenge in the States. Mm-hmm. You also have what you call JAF GT300 cars. Now, these are the Japanese GT cars, and you have a works car from Subaru. You have 2 hybrid Honda CRZs running.
Right.
They're both being run. One's being run by Super Aguri, and one's being run by the Works Mugen team. And you also have a Toyota Prius.
Excellent.
Hybrid running, which is a hell of a machine to have a look at. So when that comes around, we'll have a good look at that. But these cars are basically like GT500 used to be. There's some bits of the road car in those cars.
Yeah.
Just not a lot of bits of the road car. And they are really, really extreme, really advanced pieces of a kit. And when you see them going round, you'll realise how quick they are. These GT300 cars are as quick as the World Endurance Championship's GTE category.
Wow, okay. So serious bits of kit, clearly to match a GTE Pro or Amcar. And of course, Pro and Am are on the same spec.
They're on
now,
the same spec, yeah.
So you could take a car from GT300 and run it in the WEC.
Yeah, and it would probably be slightly quicker.
Right.
They're not obviously permitted currently, but they can race, curiously, in the Asian Le Mans Series.
Okay.
Which does permit them. So there is an opportunity there. There is this possibility we might see some of this GT300 coming and scalping a few big names in Fuji Speedway next year, which will be quite fun to watch. The GT500 cars, though, we found out in qualifying. We've got an all-Nismo front row here at Motegi.
Yeah, we'll go through the grid in due course.
Exactly, but the pole time is stunning here. It's the first time we've really seen these new cars, how quick they can go around a circuit like Motegi. Mm-hmm. It's 2/10 or one or 2 tenths a second quicker than Scott Dixon's pole time in the 2011 IndyCar race on the same circuit.
Wow.
These are quick cars.
Clearly. Okay. So this Super GT series, clearly a Grand Touring racing series, but the GT500 kind of takes it onto a new level, but it's a championship series that's had a great history, started in 1993 and has gone through various permutations. You mentioned the word JAF earlier on, which is Japanese Automobile Federation, and that's the kind of organising body behind this championship, and it's taken a new direction in 2014. Was that because it was struggling prior to this year, or is it just the next phase of this well-established series?
There's two sort of motivations behind it. One, certain people in the paddock felt the costs were getting a little bit too high and the cars were getting a little bit too extreme. There was also pressure coming from Germany, particularly BMW, who wanted to enter Super GT and still do want to enter Super GT.
Okay.
But didn't have a suitable car, but they did have this DTM car, and they told their board they would race this same model around the world, so the board would sign off the money. That still may happen. I've been told that BMW will run a GT500 car at some point next year. Now, whether that will or won't happen, we're a long way from proving that. The other reason they wanted to change it is they want to make Super GT more international. They like to go outside Japan, and they want to be a kind of Pacific Rim championship. So they've taken in races in the USA in the past, which weren't a huge success, but that was due to location and timing and promotion. They raced in Thailand for the first time on a brand new circuit this year.
Previous round to this,
Indeed, yeah, that was a very exciting race. Unfortunately, because of various technological issues, we couldn't quite cover that one. The circuit's so new, nothing really worked there, but it will be a really great round to do. In the past, they've been at Sepang. Fantastic track to race. I've been at that race a few times and really love doing that one. And they're talking about doing a few more, going a little bit further south, maybe trying Vietnam, maybe trying Korea. Korea was on the championship calendar at the beginning of this year, but it hasn't quite happened. But I think we'll see Super GT becoming a much bigger thing, and that's kind of the aim of Masaki Bando, who is the chairman of GTA, the promoter of Super GT.
Okay. So plans afoot to further improve this championship. It will have been an 8-round season, incidentally. Started way back in April, on the 6th of April at Okayama International Circuit, 300 Ks round there. Then a trip to Fuji for a slightly longer race. Is it Autopolis?
It is. That is the circuit in an extinct volcano.
Never.
In the south of the country.
That was at the start of June and was also a 300-kilometre race, as was the race at Sugo. And then another visit to Fuji for the second race of the season, but a slightly shorter one, the 300 Ks there. 1,000 Ks at Suzuka, which was the 43rd running of the Suzuka 1,000 Ks. This trip to Thailand, as you've mentioned, at the start of October, and now just over a month on, we end at Twin Ring Motegi for a 250-kilometre race. And the championship battles still to be decided in both GT500 and GT300. I know you've done all the maths on the 500, so you can keep us up to date with that. And I'm attempting to get a spreadsheet going to make sure we're all across the 300 scrap as well. It looks to be the entry for 300 has been vast throughout the year. Not everyone that has dipped into it now and again is necessarily here for the final race, but there are a number of teams and drivers that have taken part in the whole season. The Brit James Rossiter is very well placed, though, for GT500 coming into this final round of the season. And his teammate, Kaz Nakajima, who had a couple of races out, was replaced by Ryo Hirakawa. during rounds 2 and 3, but otherwise Nakajima's done every race.
Well, and that's the interesting thing. He's been given a free pass not to do the World Endurance Championship, which obviously raced yesterday in Bahrain.
Yeah.
He obviously didn't take part in that race in the Toyota TS040. Toyota said, no, go and race the Toms Lexus, obviously same company, in Motegi and go and try and help get your teammate get that driver's title. Because if James Rossiter does win, and he is the points leader currently, he will be the first individual champion of Super GT ever.
Wow.
The last two individual champions, which were Ryo Michigami in 2000 and Eric Komas the previous year, were in JGTC, Japanese Grand Touring Car Championship, which was, strictly speaking, a different championship, though the two follow each other.
Yeah.
So this is quite a big thing if Rossiter manages to win it. It'd be good to see a Brit getting up there.
And the reason why Rossiter's on different points from Kaz Nakajima is, as we've said, Nakajima missed the first Fuji round of the season and Autopolis as well. So Nakajima actually 5th in the standings on 59 points. Ahead of him is this new name to look out for, I'm told, João Paulo de Oliveira, both in GT racing but also in single-seaters, because he's been doing the business in Super Formula this year.
He has, and the Super Formula Championship is one that a lot of people in the West tend to overlook a little bit, because it's basically a baby Formula 1 championship with really high-powered, almost like Super GP2 cars, and they are really quite potent things. Kaz Nakajima, of course, won that championship, I think it was last week, actually, took the title, and so that's the other thing he's been doing. So he's been a very busy boy recently, but he's taken that title. But yeah, Oliveira has been very strong. Also, Andre Lotterer is a big figure in that, and it looks like he might be back in the Caterham again next weekend at Abu Dhabi.
To end the Formula 1 season, okay. So, yeah, João Paulo de Oliveira is currently 4th in the standings, along with his teammate Hironobu Yasuda, 60 points for both of those drivers. Sugio Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli on 61 points are 3rd in the standings. Then just 3 points in front of them, Andrea Caldarelli and Daisuke Ito, 64 points for that duo, having won the opening race of the season. And then James Rossiter, on his own, as you say, just 3 points on from that. It's very tight at the top of the table, then, isn't it? 67 plays 64, 61 and 60.
And 20 points for a win.
Which covers something like, what, the top 6 duos or single drivers.
Even
wow.
strictly speaking, Nakajima could still win this title.
Yes,
It would have to be a fairly alarming race if he did. But this race, the shortest race of the season, 250 kilometres, is a bit different. It's been held up as GT Revolution is the marketing slogan. It doesn't really work in English, but they are really going for it. The cars normally have some sort of success ballast and performance balancing, a fuel flow restriction. That's all gone for this race. These are the GT500 cars off the leash. These are flat out, no restrictions, go for it, go as fast as you can, try and win.
Wow, okay. Good time, I think, at, about 12 minutes until the race. By the way, thank you for joining us on RadioLeMans.com and Nismo TV. It's Johnny Palmer, joined by Sam Collins, taking you through the final round of the 2014 Super GT season. And why not let's give you a flavour of the grid. Certainly the pointy end of the field, we'll see how far we get. But, as we say, it's a chance for James Rossiter to take the title. He leads the standings coming in. And coming into this final round of the season, you'll have to just describe to me briefly how qualifying works. It looks to be the sort of standard first qualifying one stage, and then if you're quick enough, you get a chance to go to do another time in Q2. Exactly that.
It's just like the Formula 1 system where you have a knockout structure. Obviously, there's not as many cars, so you only have Q1 and Q2 instead of Q1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. And then
it's the top 8 that go through to Q2.
That's right.
But your co-driver has to set the other time. It looks like you actually switch drivers for Q2. And therefore, we've had a number of track records, by the way, because I'm noticing that the times with letter R against them on my screen here indicate that cars have gone quicker than ever before, and so many people have broken this record.
Well, it's the first time these new spec cars have raced at Motegi, and these cars are faster than the old cars, and actually that's created a little bit of a problem for the organisers, because not so much at Motegi, which is a modern, is almost a Formula 1 standard track, but at some other circuits, the cars are a little bit too quick for the safety facilities at those tracks, so they are a little bit concerned there. But here, no problem. Modern track, so it should be good.
Excellent. So, it's the 23 car that will start from pole position, by the way. That's Sugio Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli. Matsuda set a time of 1:39.258. That was good enough to take the team into qualifying too, and Quintarelli did the business with a 1:38.258 to put the number 23 Nissan GTR from Motul Autech, the GTR with its, was that the NR28
the
engine?
NR28, that is the Nissan 2-litre engine.
Okay. And it's actually a teammate, or similar car, not quite teammate, but another Nissan GTR, number 46, that will start alongside. Satoshi Motoyama and Masataka Yanagidi, who set a time of eventually 1:58.592 in qualifying. So it'll be Nissan GTRs on the front row, one from Motul Autech and one from S-Road Mola. And then on the second row, cars 18 and 36. 18 is Naoki Yamamoto and Takuya Izawa, alongside Kaz Nakajima and James Rossiter. So the two drivers gunning for the championship, starting from fourth position. That's an okay starting place, I suppose, and it's a long race in their Lexus. So Honda NSX, I should say, the concept car, alongside Lexus RCF. And into the next row, we have another Nissan GTR and a Honda NSX. So it'll be Hironobu Yasuda and then João Paulo de Oliveira starting in the number 12 car alongside the 32 Epson NSX of Daisuke Nakajima and Bertrand Baguette. This championship does seem to attract drivers that have established themselves in other forms of other categories of motorsport, like Le Mans racing, like European Le Mans Series racing, like World Endurance Championship. As you can see, Bertrand Baguette, a name I recognise very well indeed. James Rossiter, who's come through the single-seater ladder in the UK and now very much established himself the other side of the world, essentially. But it goes very quickly, and a category that he knows really well. It's
an all-pro championship, this. All the drivers in GT500 are paid professionals, which is quite unusual in pretty much all forms of racing these days. I think only the works teams in the WEC are like that. As we take a look on the Nismo TV at the GT300 starting grid. And there's quite a lot of them, so I don't think we're going to have time to run through quite the full detail there. But having had a look at that earlier on, one thing we didn't mention about the GT500 is obviously it is a tyre wall class there as well.
Yes.
So that is one of the big differentiators between there's three types of car in GT500, Nissan, Honda and Toyota or Lexus, and they vary amongst each other with the tyres they use. So you might get a Dunlop shod car and a Michelin shod car or a Yokohama shod car. It's really exciting to see how they differ. But in GT300 we have a slightly mixed pack where we have a Mercedes GT3 car on pole, which is the Jim Gaynor car of Katsuya Hironaka and Bjorn Verdheim. Remember him, famous for the Monaco Grand Prix incident.
Yes, absolutely.
Then behind them, you have, or sitting alongside it, you have that Toyota Prius I mentioned earlier.
In second position.
Yes.
You're quite right, yeah. And the number 31 car of Morio Nita and Koki Saga. And, yes, tell me about the spec of this Prius then, because I wouldn't expect a road-going Prius to be able to compete so well in what is a field of, 23 GT cars.
Well, if you were watching the WEC yesterday at Bahrain International Circuit, you'd have seen the Rebellions running around.
Yes.
The engine in the Rebellion, the LMP1 car, is identical to the engine in the back of this Toyota Prius.
Okay, now I start to understand why it goes so quickly.
Yes, it has the Toyota RV8K V8 LMP1 engine in the back of it. Obviously, it is mid-engined.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a hybrid, and it does use standard hybrid components from the production car in the actual car. Now, the team behind it, APR, modify those components, and they offer tuned versions to paying customers if they want one. But the Prius is a really seriously fast piece of kit. So that is a car to watch out for, though it doesn't keep its tyres alive very well through the race.
Okay. And tyre war taking place in GT300 as well as 500. So the Prius is on Yokohamas, but there's also examples on Michelin's. The 55 Honda CRZ, by the way, is on Bridgestones. There's a Dunlop shod car as well, the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG, the Gaynor Mercs that run on Dunlop tyres. So let's give you the pointy end of the grid for GT300 as well. How long have we got before race start? Around about 5 minutes or so. It's the 11 car, which is one of the Gainer Benzes, SLS AMG, as we've mentioned, Katsuyuki Hironaka and Bjorn Verdheim that have qualified the best in the number 11 car, alongside Mario Nitti and Koki Saga's Toyota Prius. Then on the second row, and by the way, the GT cars are started, about 30 seconds behind the GT500 cars. It's very similar if you've been to the Nürburgring 24 hours, in the sense you've got two separate grids released at different times. It'll be in third and fourth positions on the GT300 grid then, cars 4 and 65. 4 is the BMW Z4 of Nobutera Taniguchi and Tatsuya Katoka, and their GT3 BMW Z4 number 4 will start on Yokohama's, as will, to be fair, the majority of the field. There are one or two, as I say, differences. And then the 65 car, which is the Leon SLS Mercedes-Benz of Haruki Kurosawa and Naya Gamu, car 65 alongside number 4. And then the third row will be 0 and 55, 2 Honda CRZs, one from the Mugen team and one from ARTA. So 0 and 55 on the third row.
Now, ARTA is the name of the sponsor. The real name of that team is actually Super Aguri.
Ah.
And yes, it is the same.
Okay.
As in Amlin Aguri, Super Aguri, and
Yes,
Super
yes.
Aguri Formula One. It's the same mob.
And clearly they've found a home in the Super GT Championship within GT300. By the way, the national anthem currently taking place, and we may well be able to actually hear that. Yes, we can. Or the end of it. Sorry, that wasn't great timing, but everyone else at Motegi was on their feet, hearing the Japanese national anthem, and that therefore means we're not too far away from the start of the race. A reminder on Nismo TV of the championship standings within GT500 then, and it is James Rossiter on his own on 67 points ahead of Daisuke Ito and Andrea Caldarelli, and then in third position, that's the pole car, isn't it, that has qualified so well.
It's Quintarelli.
Quintarelli and Matsuda, yeah. So third place in the championship for those two drivers. This could be a great opportunity for them to gather some of the places back again. I got as far as the top 6 as far as the GT500. Let's just give you the top 10 to make sure we've got some kind of completeness as far as that's concerned. It's number 19 and 17 on the fourth row. That's Yuichi Wakisaka and Yui Sekiguchi in their Lexus RCF. So that makes 2 Lexus in fact 3 Lexus in the top 10. One more to come. But the 19 Lexus starts alongside the number 17 Honda NSX Concept GT car. Kudai Tsukakoshi and Toshihiro Kanishi, I should say. And Kanishi has set the time, 1 minute 40.050. And then on the fifth row, it's cars 106. 100 is the Honda NSX of Takashi Koguri and Hideki Muto. And then the number 6 car, which is Yuji Kanemoto and Kasaya Oshima in their Lexus RCF. And as you say, there is a good spread of manufacturers, Nissan, Honda and Toyota, but Lexus, as they call in this race, it's the same body of same organisation, of course, that envelops both companies. So this is the opening declaration, as it's called, before the start of the race. You can hear in the background. We're not very far away here from the 250 kilometres of Motegi to end the season for Super GT.
Now, we're going to get a real treat when we see the cars rolling around the lap. They quite typically are led out on the pace lap by police cars. Well, this being the home track of Honda, Twingming Motegi is owned by Honda, and it was built by Honda to attract IndyCar. The car on the right-hand side, for those watching the Nismo TV pictures, is a Honda NSX police car.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that immediately. Okay. And that's what's the standard issue, is it, in Japan?
It's not standard issue, but it is a real police car that is used.
Okay.
They used to have a bit of a problem in Japan. I'm not sure if I'd define it as a problem, but of guys with very high performance modified cars racing on the Tokyo Expressway, sort of racing from Tokyo down to Yokohama, the famous Midnight Club, and some of those drivers allegedly ended up running some of these GT300 teams.
Well, it's much better on the track than it is on a public road, to be fair.
Absolutely, but the NSX was brought in to discourage that.
and keep up with the opposition, I suppose. So it'll be one of those cars that leads the pack around, and it's released now, in fact, onto the parade lap. So thank you for joining RadioLeMans.com and Nismo TV. If you log on to Nismo TV, perhaps you're listening to Radio Le Mans, but if you log on to Nismo TV, you can hear us, but also see pictures as well. It's Sam Collins, the deputy editor of Race Car Engineering, easy for me to say, and Johnny Palmer taking you through the final round of the season at Motegi, the 250 kilometres, and it's the shortest race of the season, but plenty of deciding to be done within the championship, not only GT300 but GT500, and we'll cover 300 in more detail once we get into the race proper. But a chance to see this great crowd, not only on the start and finish line, but it continues around turns 1 and 2 and into turn 3 as well. Clearly,
that's actually the media car park in the background.
Okay.
And that is on the old oval. Now, the oval they can't use anymore because it was damaged in the earthquake in 2011, just after the IndyCar race.
Yeah.
And that will, I don't think, ever be repaired. But that is just to see the number of cars on there. Now, last time I was at Motegi, so they managed to sort of get into turn 2 slightly, but that whole, you can see it if you're watching the Nismo TV pictures, the whole backstretch is full of parked cars. So that is the circuit is absolutely rammed with spectators, and the guys in Japan absolutely love this championship, and it's brilliant to watch.
Easy to see why. By the way, there was some free practice running earlier on, I think today, and the 12 car was quickest. Hironobu Yasuda and João Paulo de Oliveira in their Nissan GTR, the Calsonic Impul GTR. 24 was second fastest, Michael Krum and Daiki Sasaki, and the 24 car didn't really feature in the top 10 in terms of qualifying, so it could be one to watch, having performed well in free practice. What of James Rossiter and Kaz Nakajima? Well, they were 5th fastest in the free run earlier on today. It's bizarre to see a motorbike, a car, and then a slightly larger family saloon car work these high-powered machines around the circuit. The third one in the sequence, then, is that police car you talk about?
That is the NSX, yeah,
NSX,
the third one. And
okay.
I believe the fourth one in the sequence is also a Honda, this being the home of Honda. But those cars are now peeling. Oh, no, they're not peeling off. We're going to have 2 parade laps here. But on this 4.8 kilometre circuit, opened in 1997, they call it the twin ring because we've got the oval and the main road course, but actually there's 3 rings. There's another circuit to the north which they use for sort of club racing and stuff as well.
Right.
Now, I'm not even going to set eyes on that one actually because it's off in the hills, but the circuit's located in quite a difficult to get to part of Japan. It's nowhere near any Shinkansen station, the bullet train, so you have to sort of find your way through some fairly windy country roads up into hills. It's very beautiful, but when you actually get up there, the circuit is it's very beautiful on the way to the circuit.
Okay, yes, I'm with you. Right, the motorbikes and the 2 pace cars, effectively, are peeling off now, part way round this second parade lap. So in a moment or two, the cars will get into formation ahead of a rolling start, and it'll be a separate start, as we've said, for the GT500 cars and then the GT300 cars. In fact, they're all going to be brought to a halt, it looks like, on the start line.
And when they get the actual proper pace car now, which is the Nissan GTR, he was a little bit hesitant off the line, and they did nearly have to stop, but then he's picked up all the GT500 cars, and if for those watching on Nismo TV, you'll just see the GT300 cars now picking up in the background as well. It does look very busy off the start and when you get into the first few laps, and I'm expecting some slightly lively racing. While we're waiting for them to come round for that start, we could have a quick talk about James Rossiter and his championship permutations, which there are quite a few. If James Rossiter wins this race, whatever he does, he will win the championship.
Fine. Well, that's easy for him to kind of approach the race with that in mind.
Exactly, but there is a whole table of different ways. So various other drivers have to finish in various other positions for them to take the championship as well.
Yeah.
But Rossiter, if he finishes second, and Caldarelli and Ito win, Rossiter is still the champion, I believe. So it's a really sort of mixed. It's one of those things. Sort of, it's a bit like England qualifying out of its group in the World Cup. You know, it's very difficult to calculate exactly what will happen, but you're going to get knocked out by Bolivia.
I noticed on the graphic, if you're watching Nismo TV, you will have seen that there's almost an updated points standings, as we go at the moment. And interestingly enough, GT300, it looks like there's a tie on 78 points for the top two cars as they sit at the moment, 4 and 11. So it is close, as we've described. I love the fact that there's an old-school parade lap, though, 2 parade laps, in fact, for all the fans to see the cars behind those special police vehicles, and now we are into formation lap mode.
That's Kamui Kobayashi there, hanging out in the BMW pit there, and it's, well, we wonder if we'll see him in Abu Dhabi. I suspect we won't, and I wonder what he will be driving next year. I wouldn't be too surprised if it isn't a Formula 1 car, if it wasn't a GT500 car.
It's certainly attracting interest from not only Japanese drivers but also elsewhere around the world, and yes, it could be an option for Kobayashi if he doesn't find a Formula 1 drive. So heading into the hairpin at the end of the lap comes this train of GT500 cars, still under the control of the pace car. And I think at this point it will dive to pit lane, will it?
No, it won't. No,
it
it's going to go again.
Almost confusing the pole position car then of Sugio Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli. Try and find out in a moment or two who's starting that car, the number 23.
Well, that's not actually the pit lane, that's the back stretch.
I beg your pardon.
Yes,
Okay,
there's a second pit lane here for the different race configuration. So this is running down round the back of the track, but they should be forming up fairly soon. The lights are out on the top of the car, which means he should be coming in. I can't actually remember where the pit entry is here at Motegi.
We'll find out in due course, because all these cars will have to make, is it one stop during the 250Ks?
Well, they have to do a driver change,
yeah,
but they will make more stops for tyres, I suspect. Now, exactly how many, well, that's going to depend on what tyres you're using and how you use those tyres up, and it's going to depend a bit on the track temperature and, well, the race condition. But this is quite a short race. Now, there's the pit entry.
There we go.
And he's, the GTR is backing up the field, well, backing up the other 2 GTRs, and as they form up.
Nissan GTR locking out the top 2 places. It's Motul Autech versus S-Road Mola, and a good formation lap now gets the cars in order, into grid order. This is a rolling start for the final round of the season then of the 2014 Super GT. It's RadioLeMans.com and Nismo TV as we turn to green, and 5 green lights welcome the drivers. Good start for number 23, the pole position Nissan GTR that's got the jump on the rest of the field. It is the second place Nissan that slots into second after the start, number 46. And what of James Rossiter? Well, he's in 4th position, so...
and off go the GT300 cars there now, and it was a terrible start, I thought, for the silver GTR, but the Motul car, it almost looked like he was holding up those cars to try and let the red one get away, but now we've got a hell of a scrap going on in GT300 as the Toyota Prius tries to have a run around the outside of the Jim Gaynor car, but gets done himself by the BMW, and I think there was contact going into the 3rd corner, as it looks like one of the 500 cars has gone off in turn 3, but I didn't see who that was. There was certainly some dust up, and yes, there he goes. It's the blue Calsonic GTR flying off the track there.
Yeah, a big moment there for the Calsonic car, which started in 5th position and almost looked to be ahead of the Petronas Lexus, but on the grass and facing the wrong way. And thankfully, the Calsonic car of João Paulo de Oliveira has now rejoined. So it's the Brazilian to start that car, and it was battling with the Petronas machine.
That was Rossiter. He hit Rossiter.
Wow, there was contact.
Oh, there's damage on big damage on Rossiter's car there, and also on they're both going to need to come to the pits for that. That's terrible news for Rossiter.
Goodness me, not absolutely, to state the bleeding obvious, not what he wanted on the opening lap. And let's have a look at the damage then on the front of the car. If you're not watching it, by the way, tune to Radio Le Mans. You can see pictures on Nismo TV and witness this, what should be 53-lap race to end the Super GT season. But all of a sudden, the championship protagonist, James Rossiter, is on the back foot. I noticed that the car is heading now over the line, so decides not to pit on this lap. Maybe just assessing the damage, talking to the team to see how the car is behaving. It's still 4th place, bizarrely.
Yeah, it's not going to be for long, though. He's got terrible understeer in that, and that Honda NSX and the Bando Wed Sport Toyota is coming up right behind him. He's not going to be able to hold them off for long. He's really got terrible understeer. I think he's got serious right front aero damage. They've got some quite big, quite sensitive aero components, and yet, in fact, you can see that as he comes up. For those watching on Nismo TV, he has some bodywork damage there. This is terrible news for Rossiter, because scampering off into the distance is the Matsuda Quintarelli or Tech Nismo. They are championship contenders. They can win this title at this race.
And what a fantastic start it's been for the number 17 car, which is right on the tail now of James Rossiter. That's Toshihiro Kaneshi that started the 17 Honda NSX, and it's in 5th place. Bear in mind that car started in 8th position, so already gained places after 1.5 laps, and there is quite a queue forming up now behind James Rossiter, not up to race pace. He's waving goodbye, unfortunately, to the top 3 that are up the road now to a certain extent, and there are 5-6 cars right on the tail of James Rossiter. Meanwhile, João Paulo de Oliveira in the number 12 car,
also a championship contender,
the Calsonic machine, which had the clash with James Rossiter on the opening lap. You reckon damage what on the rear?
Huge damage on the left-hand side of that car. The lower whole crucial bits of the car, all the aero components on the left-hand side of that blue Nissan GTR are just completely missing. They're gone. That's the bits we saw flying up in the air. He also looks like the suspension may have collapsed on the left rear. It's sitting very oddly, but still no one can get past Rossiter. He's holding up the field, and he is giving this to those 2 Nissans and that one escaping Honda at the front.
Is this potentially a champion's drive, I wonder, to try and keep this field behind him for as long as possible? He's holding station in 4th place, but you just sense that the 5, 6, maybe even 7 cars that are queuing up behind the Petronas liveried machine now are getting a tad impatient. By the way, on to lap 3 now, and it is the 23 car, the pole position car, that leads the way then, the Nissan of Matsuda and Quintarelli.
Well, there's a lot of concern on the Calsonic pit wall. I'm just looking at those guys there, and they are discussing quite what to do about the damage on the blue Nissan GTR, but still no one managed to get past Rossiter. From a very quick back of the Moleskine notebook calculation, I think if it ended like this, and we've got a very long way to go, 50 laps yet, and lots of pit stops, at the moment, Matsuda and Quintarelli, I think, are in championship winning position.
Right, so they just need to win this race with Rossiter down in 4th position.
With Rossiter in 4th, this is not good enough, and it doesn't look like Rossiter is going to move forward. He's clearly losing pace from that car. And
having to drive a defensive drive up until this point, of course, so we'll be working his tyres a little more than the cars out front that are in clean air. Kanishi trying his best here to force the Brit into a mistake. It's not forthcoming just yet, but you can tell that this number 36 Lexus of James Rossiter is not up to race pace after an opening lap clash with the Calsonic machine, which started in 5th position of João Paulo de Oliveira, the Brazilian. Impressive performance from that team. The Calsonic Impul Nissan GTR in qualifying put it 5th. Kaz Nakajima looks relatively cool considering this situation.
He never looks particularly happy when he's sitting in the garage, whether he's got a body warmer or not. Even in WEC he always looks a bit grumpy, but I think that's just the way he is. We've been asked on Twitter about the point system. Well, it's 20 points for a win, 15 for second, 11 from third, then 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And that's been the case for the majority of the rounds this season. Slightly different point scoring at Suzuka, which was the 1,000 Ks.
Yeah, they scored points at different points through the race.
Okay.
So it was a slightly... So that's why if you look on the points table, it doesn't quite add up as we take a look at the GT300 field, which is just a long line of battling cars right now.
Yeah, fantastic to watch. And the best of them is Bjorn Verdheim, by the way, in the Gainer run Mercedes-Benz SLS. There's been a change for second place from the starting order, though, because the BMW Z4 of Kotoka and Taniguchi has got his way ahead of the Toyota Prius, although the Prius sticking with the Beamer, I notice. Second and third relatively close into this sharp right-hander, which takes them underneath the large oval here at Motegi. So 11 Mercedes leads 4 BMW and 31 Toyota Prius.
Now, it's interesting to see the Good Smile garage there. Now, that, I think, is the Hatsune Miku car. It's an Itasha car, what they call a painful car, because it's painfully embarrassing to have these sort of cartoon images on your car. But they are... Hatsune Miku is a Vocaloid, and it's a character that has been on Letterman, of all things, singing and dancing around. But the Toyota Prius lost that second position on the first lap when he tried to have a go for the lead and didn't manage to quite get through. You saw it, but the Hatsune Miku Z4 will be hunting its way back up the field. But running away now is Ronnie Quintarelli, the second Nissan, keeping him slightly honest, and that Honda just hanging back there. But it doesn't look like it's Honda's day at the moment.
Seemingly not, no. A very dominant performance from Nissan, and their GTR at the moment in the hands of Moto Autech and Matsuda and Quintarelli, who, let me us remind you again, are certainly in the hunt for the championship, as James Rossiter still hasn't let any of these cars by. He's driving a very decent race here. Defensive, but just has enough pace to keep what is certainly 4, maybe even 5-car train behind them, and... well, it's their job to try and find a way by. He doesn't have to clearly allow them through, and he's trying to drive as much of the racing line as possible. The 5th place machine really closes up through the hairpin here towards the end of the lap. Not quite the end of the lap, although they're going over grid hatchings. This is another point that you can start a race here at Motegi. And as we stand... there are the points on Nismo TV. Matsuda and Quintarelli would win the championship by 6 points. They would have 81, Rossiter 75, and Kaz Nakajima 67, which put him 3rd in the championship. So Rossiter doesn't just need to hold station, he's got to try and gain places here as this 4th place battle, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th positions all work their way past a fabulous camera angle there. Get tuned to Nismo TV if you're not already. And here's possibly the move from Kanishi. He just had a little bit of a think there up the inside at turn 1, because was that ever possible, Sam?
Well, I think he's going to have another stab at it coming into this next sequence of corners. But that Keihin NSX, the dark blue Honda, looks like it's really stiffly sprung as the Wedsport Bando Toyota nearly gets into the back of him as he tries to have a run past Rossiter. But they're just doing everything to get past this English driver.
But still, the Brit stays ahead, and now there may be a change actually for 5th position. Here's Kanishi's chance, not quite, as he thinks about a move. Oh, and there's a car off.
That's one of the GT3 Nissans there, and oh yeah, that's a big hit for the 48. Tanaka has put it in that tyre wall quite hard and done the front end of the GT3 spec GT300 Nissan. Wasn't in contention for the battle there, but that could bring out a safety car with a tractor sitting right there in that bit of the corner.
So that was number 48. That is for GT300 then?
It's GT300 car,
right.
yeah, it was the red and white one.
Car 48, which started in 22nd position, Hiroshi Takamori and Masaki Tanaka in their GTR. That's the Snap-on Dijon Racing GTR Nismo GT3.
Now, for those watching Nismo TV, every time we come over this section of track where the Keihin NSX is trying to have a go at Rossiter, it's the only one. Even the other Hondas don't hop around but it's really hopping around on the surface of the track, looking like it's really stiffly set up. Now, these Hondas are hybrids, and they are uniquely mid-engined, whereas 500s are front-engined, and it gives them some cooling issues. And Honda's had a bit of a nightmare season, but they came here to their home track hoping to get a much better form. But with the Toyota in front and the Toyota behind, it looks like that Keihin car is the meat in a Toyota sandwich. Well, here's another Toyota coming up and going to get its way back past that Hatsune... the Hatsune Miku BMW in 2nd position in GT300. Well, we have the other hybrid, the Toyota Prius, about to pass the BMW Z4, I suspect.
So this is the 2nd place battle, or is it a bit further down the order?
This is the battle for 2nd in GT300, okay. And here he goes. At the same point, it seems to be the best overtaken spot on the track. The Hatsune Miku car goes defensive, but the Toyota is going to be right there. He'll be pressing all his boost buttons and clever electronics in that cockpit.
Katauka trying to make his BMW as wide as possible, and
Nitta is going to get through, I think, because that Toyota looks a lot quicker, and he wants to get quickly after. Now we saw this at Suzuka, how the Toyota brings its tyres in and suddenly goes very quickly for a while, but then wears them out, and then the GT3 cars come back at it. So it's got quite a kind of inconsistent pace through the race. And the other one we haven't really seen is the Subaru BRZ. They've not had a strong form all season either. So if we do see that car, it's very nice to look at, but I don't think it's going to feature in this race very heavily.
Lap 7 of 53, still no change for 4th position, despite the advances of the number 17 machine, desperate to try and get by James Rossiter, who has an injured Lexus RCF after an opening lap skirmish with the Calsonic car, number 12 of De Oliveira, but still the number 18 car can't get by. They've still got this fabulous battle for 2nd and 3rd within GT300 as well. BMW ahead of Toyota Prius, but at the moment the BMW is holding firm in second position, but you just sense that far more aware of the Prius presence than trying to catch that lead gain of Mercedes-Benz, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, it's a German 1-2 in GT300, but interesting, they had that brilliant points graphic on the screen for GT300 just now, and it's super tight in GT300, like it is in GT500, but right now, if the race finished, absolutely nothing would change. Well, we have a look now. The Toyota, I think, he needs to find a good place to pass, and it does seem that, well, as James Rossiter with his very, very wide Lexus RCF is showing us, that it's quite a difficult circuit to overtake on, and this is Motegi is one of these new breed of circuits that's been heavily designed, but perhaps doesn't necessarily lend itself to top level, well, good action on track the way some of the older circuits like Sugo and Suzuka do.
So lap 8, and focusing on the battle for second position in GT300 at the moment. It's a class led by Björn Verdheim, who qualified the car in qualifying 2 as at the head of the order. That is the number 23 machine, battling with what, GT500 cars? Lapping them, though.
Yeah, but this is where it starts to get lively, because he gets into these battles with the GT300 cars, of which there's a lot. We just saw a glimpse of that Subaru, so he's really at the back of the GT300 field at the moment, really struggling there. Rossiter, though, still... no, we've got to change of position. Yeah, the Keihin NSX has just got past Rossiter. We didn't see that on screen. And now the Wedsport Bando. And no, he's just lost it again. He's just dropped 2 positions running wide on the exit of the corner.
Oh,
so Rossiter's back.
Maybe so surprised to be in 4th position.
No, that's trouble.
A problem.
Trouble.
Yeah, there is an issue. Now, was that as a result of running wide? Or has it just suddenly started to conk out? That's the 17 machine.
It's a right rear problem. It looks like either a tyre's gone or he's got damage on the right rear tyre there.
So the car ran wide, out onto the grass and over a curve. That wouldn't have caused the puncture.
No, I think the puncture was the cause of him going lost, not the effect.
This is Toshihiro Kanishi then in the Keihin NSX concept car, which is struggling. It's been battling away for 4th position with James Rossiter since the opening part of the race, really. And, well, the problems for the 17 car are all of a sudden James Rossiter's gain. Yes, okay, it's out of the frying pan into the fire in the sense that he's still not free to continue on his race on his own, because he's still got 5 cars queuing up behind him, but it's no longer 6. One of them has dropped away as late braking there into the hairpin. Towards the end of the lap goes the number 19 machine, which is the Lexus.
That's the Wedsport Bando car.
It is, of Wakisaka and Sekiguchi. And is there a move being made here? It's Sekiguchi, by the way, on board the number 19 car. A little bit of an overlap there as they head for the right-hander that heads underneath the bridge, but James Rossiter can cover the line because the next corner is a left-hander.
But then contact behind there was there's another Lexus, I can't quite see which one it is, the white and blue Lexus just got tagged there by, I think it was one of the other Hondas, and so there's another Lexus running around with damage as the Nissan GTRs are battling themselves further down the order.
Side-by-side action for what was 8th and 9th positions, I reckon, as James Rossiter remains in 4th. It is Caldarelli, by the way, in 6th position, one of a couple of Italians in this championship. And in 6th place, the 27 car, which we've not mentioned an awful lot about. Was it 27 or 37? Could well have been 37, actually. The Lexus, Caldarelli, 6th place. So it's qualified in 13th position. That's the car shared with Daisuke Ito, but it's Caldarelli at the wheel at the moment. And Caldarelli...
and Rossiter just got hit. Rossiter just got hit. Yeah, he got hit by the Wedsport car as they were passing the struggling Subaru GT300 car, and now I think there is damage on the Wedsport car, who has just dropped a position to the similar...
That's Caldarelli, isn't it?
Yeah, the keeper Tom's... I believe that's another Tom's car. I know we've got a safety car vehicle on the track, but I don't have as... Well, I'm not quite sure what that was, as the Keihin car is in for repairs. There was a course car on the track there, but we don't seem to have a yellow flag in that sector. OK, interesting. Well, maybe we're going for Nürburgring 24-hour rules here, where we get intervention vehicles out in the middle of the race. The 17 car in pit lane, as you've said, so Toshihiro Kenishi having to bring the damaged Honda NSX into pit lane after it suffered that, what you reckon, left rear It was definitely a left rear problem. I don't know if it was a tyre flailing around and damaging. We still never saw quite how that happened or got a replay of that battle that saw Rossiter lose his position very briefly. But now Rossiter is heading up a pair of similar Lexus cars.
Just a shout for Andrea Caldarelli, by the way, who qualified in 13th position. Actually, it was Daisuke Ito that did the time, but Caldarelli, now he's got his hands on the Lexus, has got it up to 5th position. It's on the boot lid of James Rossiter, so he's yet another car to try and get by, flashing the lights to James Rossiter. I don't think that's going to work quite yet.
This is like approaching the Dartford Tunnel at 5:30 at night. There's so much traffic out there right
crazy.
now. As these GT500 cars are now all tightly bunched, battling through another tight bunch of the GT300, mix of GT3 and JAF GT300 cars. So it's going to get quite spicy.
7th and 8th place battle as well behind this. You've got a three-way tie for 4th, 5th and 6th. Still James Rossiter, the champagne cork in the bottle, as there's almost contact. There was contact with some slower 300 traffic there, and both Rossiter and Andrea Caldarelli having to thread the eye of a needle there between two GT cars. They just about got it done, but there was side-to-side contact, I reckon, Sam.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a sideswipe on that Lamborghini. Now, those GT3 Lamborghinis are much more able, or the GT3 cars are much more able to take contact than these GT500 cars, which have really lots of aerodynamic devices hanging off the side of them, and literally hanging off in the case of Rossiter, who is just working his way past that Porsche and the McLaren there.
And Rossiter in two minds as to whether to go left or right of the Porsche. Thankfully, he decided right, so hangs on to 4th position. But Andrea Caldarelli is there, ready to pounce in the number 37 Lexus, just as soon as a Rossiter mistake comes. And, of course, Rossiter has slipped to 5th position behind the 17 machine. And then almost immediately, the 17 had an issue of its own and had to come onto pit road. At the end of another lap, this is lap 12, this race is really rushing on by. 53 laps it will be for the 250Ks of Motegi to end the Super GT season. It's RadioLeMans.com and Nismo TV.
We've got a penalty for the number 12 of Oliveira. Now, I'm not quite sure what that's for, but it may be avoidable contact or something like that.
Well, it was the Oliveira car that, of course, Rossiter clashed with on the opening lap, and I just imagine whether that incident has been replayed by race control, and presumably blame apportioned to the Brazilian side of that move. It's difficult because the camera images we were fed was kind of halfway through the incident, didn't see the build-up of it, as Caldarelli has a little bit of a think about a move up the inside of Rossiter, but he would have been balked by the Mercedes-Benz. That's not the race leader in 300, is it?
Not quite yet. No, we're still working. That's a darker coloured one, the Gainer car, but the Rossiter is coming up now on that pair of Hondas who are quite fast in their JAF GT300 cars. Now, they look quite like these GT500 because they're big, wide, muscular-looking things rather than these dainty European things.
So out of this left-hander and up towards the hairpin bend goes the scrap for 4th and 5th within GT500. Not mentioned an awful lot about the race leader, but that's because the Matsuda and Quintarelli car, the Motul Autech Nissan GTR, is having a dominant run at the head of the order. Number 23, a decent lead over the second place machine.
Well, as the BMAX Engineering Nissan GTR tries to get a run on the Works Mugen Honda, the two Toyotas battling for that position are trying to work their way through as well, and I don't think they've been spotted by the two GT300 cars in front, and indeed they haven't. Rossiter's been boxed in as they go past the pit lane, and I don't think he's going to be able to hold on to that position into the corner.
This was kind of a matter of time, and Andrea Caldarelli will take the place at turn 1, but Rossiter on the fight back, and on the overlap, the cut back, he's trying to get the place back again. Almost worked, but as they head on this straight that runs parallel with the start and finish line, it's Caldarelli that finally cements 4th position, and the Rossiter stranglehold on that place just off the podium finally relinquishes. Now, Rossiter doesn't have an immediate opponent behind him, so he can just kind of collect his thoughts, try and stay with Caldarelli as much as possible, but let's remind you that Rossiter's car is injured after that opening lap skirmish with Brazilian João Paulo de Oliveira.
And that's no wonder they're looking a bit grumpy there down there in the Tom's garage, because this is Rossiter's championship just evaporating right now. He's got all of his championship rivals in front of him, which is exactly where he doesn't want them.
GT300 still headed by the number 11 Jim Gaynor Mercedes, by the way. It's the 4 BMW in second position, 14 seconds further back though, and then the Toyota Prius in third place.
And I think the question's now got to be for the team, for the Tom's team, who are one of the best teams in Japan, whether they're going to try and fix that left front corner on Rossiter's car to try and recover some of the ground it's losing right now. But I don't know if they've got time to do it, as Ronnie Quintarelli continues his performance, and he's just passed the GT300 leader Bjorn Verdheim for a lap.
Yep, so GT500 leader, laps GT300 leader, and there is a huge lead for Quintarelli. Actually, good point, yeah, for both of them. Of course, Verdheim is helped by the scrap for second place within GT300, which is still no less close, by the way, because it is the BMW just ahead of the Toyota Prius still. They're nose to tail and pretty much have been since the start of the race.
Yeah, I mean, that AGT Prius has been desperately trying to get past that, the Hatsune Miku BMW Z4, but hasn't managed it as the number 12 Nissan takes its drive-through penalty. I wonder if we're going to get a look at the other side of that car, which is pretty seriously damaged after that first lap contact with Rossiter.
And of course, not only is he at the back of the field, he's had to take a drive-through penalty, De Oliveira, and he's dealing with a car that is certainly not behaving through the airflow as the designer intended. As Sam makes the point, the GT cars can take a fair old battering in traffic, and their performance is not greatly affected, but the GT500 cars carry so much aero, so much kind of aerodynamic advantage, and rely on their grip, not only mechanically but from the aerodynamics, that if they do get clattered by other cars, that does affect their lap time dramatically. And we're seeing that for not only James Rossiter, who's slipped to 5th position now, but also for João Paulo de Oliveira in the number 12 Calsonic Nissan. Nose to tail still for second and third in GT300, so BMW Z4 just about having the straight line speed over the third place Toyota Prius, the OGT Panasonic sponsored Prius.
Well, we've got a little bit of a moment as the Prius continues. I'll keep an eye on that as it chases round, but I don't think he's going to have a go in it at the moment. I've just been having a quick look at Twitter. I'm reliably informed that the saloon-type police car at the start was actually a Subaru Legacy.
Okay.
Which I didn't realise. I probably wouldn't recognise anyway. Carol Brink says Cabana Boy for the win. I didn't know what class he's driving in.
Thank you.
And just having a look at any of the other interesting bits and bobs. We didn't run through the starting drivers, and somebody has pointed out, Rotation has pointed out, that all the marshals' posts look like log cabins. I didn't notice that myself.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll have a look out for those. Maybe they're set fair for slightly worse weather than we're enjoying at Motegi this weekend, as Sam's already made the point. Beautiful weather to end the season. And, by the way, in second and third positions, the cars that started in those places have pretty much held station. So it's the 23 Nissan from the 46 Nissan and the 18 Honda that are at the head of the order.
Well, we could be about to get some action as that battle in GT300 is joined by the ongoing let's try and overtake James Rossiter competition, and now it's the Wedsport Bando car, which has been trying to do it for quite a lot longer than anybody else now.
Yeah, because all of a sudden Yuhi Sekiguchi finds himself on the back of James Rossiter's Lexus again. So two Lexus scrapping away around the outside of the hairpin. That's surely never going to work. Sekiguchi, though, try and tell him that it is going to work, because the speed that the car can carry around the outside of the hairpin just shows how off-pace James Rossiter's Lexus is there, done around the outside of a hairpin.
Now Rossiter is really in trouble. I mean, you can see the front dive plane flapping around in the breeze there. Now, I was trying to have a quick look at the tyre suppliers, but I think just it doesn't really matter, because when you can be driven around the outside like that, your car is sick.
Yeah.
And it looks like Rossiter will be in that number 36 car imminently, because Kaz Nakajima is getting kitted up. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they do try and effect any sort of repair on that corner.
Horrible situation for both James and Kaz to be in, though, because, of course, the blame has been apportioned. We assume João Paulo de Oliveira's penalty was for that clash on the opening lap, but it doesn't help James Rossiter. Yes, OK, you're punishing the driver that was at fault, but Rossiter's got to run the rest of the race with this car that is sick and try and get a good finishing position. But championship, sadly for James, being waved goodbye at the moment. And he's not only going to wish ill on the race leader, but also a couple of other cars ahead. It's Ronnie Quintarelli, by the way, that leads in the number 23 from the S-Road Mola Nissan GTR, and then the Vida Modular Honda NSX that is in third position. And we may be in store for the first round of pit stops here with Kaz Nakajima, helmet on, hands device ready. So he's about to clamber on board the number 36 car, I should say.
That battle, the battle between the Prius and BMW, you probably haven't heard us talking about for a while. Those watching the pictures will see that it's a little bit disrupted at the moment with the GT500 cars passing through them. But we're expecting quite a few. That's the Team Studi BMW coming in as well. Now, this is the team that we expect to be running a GT500 BMW next year. Now, the only reason that hasn't happened already is BMW aren't particularly happy with having a balance of performance applied on their V8 engine. They still have to run their 4-litre V8 DTM engine, but the organisers of Super GT says, look, we'll give you a really gentle BOP, i.e. we want you and we'll give you an advantage when it's come.
Yes, I understand. So, will we see race leader Ronnie Quintarelli come in for a stop, I wonder? Certainly some of the GT300 cars thinking about a pit lane visit very shortly. This is lap 17 of 53. You're watching Nismo TV. You're listening to RadioLeMans.com. It's Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering and Johnny Palmer taking you through the final round of the Super GT Championship here at Motegi, Japan. Round 8 of 8 for the 2014 season. Came into this round with James Rossiter leading the point standings by only 3 points. But sadly, James was involved in an opening lap clash with the penalised number 17 car. Number 12 car, let's get that right. And both cars damaged, and both cars, although still circulating, nowhere near race pace. Here is the pit stop then for the number 7.
That's this Team Studi car driven by Ara and Jörg Müller. And if that's not a works car, then I don't know what is, with its BMW M Group livery on it. They claim it's not a works car, but it has a works driver and a works livery, and there's, I think, a lot of works involvement. This is BMW's toe in the water exercise, I think, to get data for next year.
Seiji Ara getting out of the Z4 and Jörg Müller climbing on board the German.
And Ara is not exactly a slow pedaler himself, as we saw in the Dome LMP1 at Le Mans a few years ago.
That's right. And the 7 car then feeding back into the mixture. One of the first cars to stop. 3 abreast just behind the battle for 5th position. James Rossiter still hasn't allowed the number 19 car by quite yet, although there are still efforts to try and squeeze Rossiter down to 6th position, with Yui Sekiguchi trying to pressurise James Rossiter into a mistake, but Rossiter again driving this blinding race when you consider the circumstances.
I just noticed one of the cars there seeming to try and get heat in his tyres as he came down the end of the straight. That's that red, I think it's one of the it's a red Lexus there, the Zensurumo Lexus. Looks like he is, well, from where he's positioned, he can't have made a pit stop, but it looks like his tyres have gone off because he's getting bullied, seriously bullied, by that green and black GTR behind him.
2 by 2 by 2 as they work their way through the left-hander then. It's Rossiter from actually the 100 car.
That's the Raybrig NSX.
Yes, of Takashi Kaguri and Hideki Muto.
Hideki Muto also used to race in IndyCar, so it might be a familiar name to a lot of people. Can't remember if it was IndyCar or Champ Car, actually. It doesn't really matter, does it?
One of the two. They're kind of both the same thing now, I suppose. As through the swoops of Motegi, this fight for 6th position goes, and James Rossiter not far away from lapping the GT300 leader, which is still the Jim Gaynor Mercedes SLS of Bjorn Verdheim. And Verdheim may not be too far away from handing over to teammate Kazuyuki Hironaka. We've already seen 1 or 2 stops for GT300 traffic.
Well, for those watching on Nismo TV, you've got a great illustration there of the GT500 tyre suppliers. I was talking about the Wedsport Lexus, or that's on Bridgestone tyres, and it is a different tyre supplier to the tyres used on that Rossiter is using by Toms, and that will cause a few. That's possibly why he managed to go around the outside, and this is why you're going to see these differences in the pit calling order, because they're going to wear at different rates. And the GT300 cars, well, that stop from Team Studies really quite early, because the rest of the cars in that car haven't been near the pits, but
no,
it looks like Rossiter maybe, there's still the competition to who can overtake James Rossiter here.
And the next in the queue is the 100 car, as we've said, Hideki Muta and Takashi Kaguri, but no way through at the moment. And of course, if the number 100 car isn't quick to get by, there are 2 more cars sort of latching their way onto the back of this fight, as the Toyota Prius from 3rd position in GT300 comes in for its first stop.
Yeah, as I thought, it would wear out his tyres faster than the GT3 cars do. I mean, they're very different cars. between the GT3 cars and cars like the Prius, they work very differently and they make their speed in very different ways, and that's why you will see them coming and going and yo-yoing right up to the end of the race.
So Morio Nitta handing over to Koki Saga in the Toyota Prius, and already it's heading back into the race with Saga now at the wheel, the number 31 OGT Panasonic Prius.
That's a Works endorsed car, but it's not a Works car.
Okay, like a satellite team then. Does it get a little bit of help from Toyota?
They certainly get some help.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they get any funding. I suspect they do with some of the logos and brands on the side of it. It's very Toyota with the Panasonic all over it and the big liveries they get. But it's run out of a very much proper old-school racing garage just outside Tokyo. 18
degrees Celsius in the air at Motegi, 24 degrees C on the track, and it would appear that Michelin is the tyre to have if you're running a GT500 car, because they lock out the top 3 positions with race leader at number 23, which is on the French rubber, which is Ronnie Quintarelli in the Nissan GT-R. It's the S-Road Mola Nissan in second position, and the Vida Modular Honda NSX that runs third. They are the cars that qualified first, second, third, and they're still in that order in the race. Well, we've had a slight change in order with the D-Station GTR has got past the Zensurumo Lexus just there. We saw a quick replay of it. It was a very standard move, actually, but that D-Station car, I thought earlier it looked like it was getting a bit loose as it comes up to the back of that Honda, again bouncing around, as the 37 car, that's the keeper Lexus, is coming into the pit, so we should expect that car is essentially identical to the one Rossiter drives. We should expect Rossiter in as, it is certainly GT500 pit time. Yeah, and is that the car that came in for the drive-through? Yeah, now I wonder if they're going to try and effect a repair on that. We can't quite see the damage. It's on the far side of the car on the right-hand side, but there doesn't seem to be much attention being paid to it, but they are looking quite hard at it. And the officials are having a good look as well. Now, they're not sure they're happy with that car. As that's a long stop now. There's not a lot of work being done, and they are they going to get out again? Clearly work taking place on the rear end of the car, but, maybe they can effect a repair. Of course, there's not much of a race for them to continue on with because of the issue on that opening lap, and of course it was actually the car that was penalised in the end that came off worse from the incident. Rossiter somehow kept the car pointed in the right direction and on the black stuff, whereas the car that clattered into him ended up on the grass, spinning, facing the wrong direction, as the keeper car comes in for its first stop. This is number 37 for a driver change. This is Rossiter's teammate, so yes, the other Tom's car, and there's the Petronas coloured one, and this is the keeper coloured one, but they are run out of the same garage next to each other, just outside Fuji Speedway. And Andrea Caldarelli, after that fabulous opening stint, will hand over to Daisuke Ito. Already up to 25 seconds for the stop, but the 37 car had got up to 4th position, I think, by the point of the stops. When you consider it qualified 13th, didn't get into Q2 during qualifying, set a time of 1:47.512, but Andrea Caldarelli has really impressed in the keeper Tom's Lexus RCF. It will feed back in. Just going back to the GT300 battle, of course, it was such a tight fight between the BMW and the Toyota Prius. That is the sort of battle that could be decided in the pits. Yeah, I think it really is, and that could actually make an impact on the championship standings as well. So, I mean, the championships in both classes are still up in the air, but right now it's looking like Nissan might snatch this. Now, is that the fight for second and third on track? I wonder whether, yes it is, nose to tail for the second and third place battle. So number 18, the Honda NSX, now starting to monster the Nissan in second position, and almost a move being made there, not quite, into turn one. That's the Dome Racing Team NSX, rather wider, chasing down the S-Road Mola Nissan GTR. Now, neither of these cars have been in the pit yet, so that we will see them stop at some point soon. So Yanagidi and Yamamoto are the drivers involved at the moment. Masataka Yanagidi and Naoki Yamamoto. And it was Yamamoto who set the quickest time in Q2, by the way. Yanagidi did the hard work in Q1 in the number 46 Nissan. Both on Michelin tyres, but for whatever reason, as we get towards the end of the opening stint, as James Rossiter pits, and we'll hand over to Kaz Nakajima, so pitting from 5th position. But for whatever reason, into the back end of this opening stint for cars 46 and 18, it's the 18 car that looks a little more sure-footed. Yeah, I think
It's going to be hard to see as they work their way through that past that Aston Martin there.
10-second penalty, I noticed, for the 46 of Yannick Eady in second position. Now, what on earth is that for?
No, he hasn't been to the pit, so it can't be pit speeding, so I'm not quite sure. And that is standard steam, and we didn't really get a very good look at the damage on the 36, as now driven by Nakajima, Tom's car, as it comes out of the pit lane.
Super Formula champion.
2014 Super Formula champion. I was just trying to have a look at that right front, and I think that's the GT300 leader pitting in the background. No, they didn't do any repair on that car. I've just noticed the damage is still there, and it is still flapping around in the breeze.
Maybe they've just realised that can't be straightened out, ironed out in one pit stop. As
that's the battle for second and third, or was second and third, coming into the pits together. So it'll be interesting to see how a Dome pit stop compares to an S-Road Mola pit stop.
Yep, we'll get a side-by-side comparison here. Sad to say, though, that the 46 car looks like it's going to have to come in for another stop.
That's S-Road coming in for its penalty, not for its pit stop. Yeah, so that's...
So the 46 car parked at the far end of the pit lane. That's Masataka Yanagidi having to serve this 10-second penalty, and spins the wheels a little bit at the far end. Let's hope he's not done for that too.
No, that isn't the GT300 leader. That's the other GT300 Mercedes that made it stop just then. So we're still awaiting that GT300 lead stop.
But what we do have is Naoki Yamamoto bringing the number 18 Honda NSX in, and there'll be a driver change there. So Takuya Izawa to take over.
And that is a name to watch, Izawa. He is Honda's protege, and they are working on getting him into Formula One by 2016.
Is that right? A stall for Izawa, so that's not going to do his credentials a whole lot of good, is it? But
no, that's certainly not.
He'll try and get the car refired as quickly as possible. Now, this is an opportunity, of course, to finish in second position with the penalty for Yanagidi and Motoyama in the 46 car. You can hear in the background the Motegi commentator getting very excited about this. Then the stall for the number 18 machine. Takuya Izawa now has got the car up and running. Delayed, though, is the Honda. It's back in the race. We'll have to wait for everything else to shake out to then realise where he is in the order. As right behind, there's a battle for... Now, what's that, the BMW?
That is the Hatsune Miku BMW there.
That was second.
And I believe that is the car that was in the lead behind him.
So we have had a change for GT300.
No, we haven't. That's the RN Sports SLS. It looks very similar to the Gainer SLS. They're both the same colour.
I can understand that mistake. That's with red door mirrors, the number 10 car. I'll try and clock the colour of the door mirrors on the other Mercedes, but it is the 4 BMW, and it came into pit lane from 4th position with a Toyota Prius right on its tail. It's gone back into second place, but all of a sudden has a Mercedes in 3rd position, nibbling at his heels. So this is familiar territory for the BMW.
And the reason they look to them, also, they are both the Gainer cars. They are 2 Gainer cars. One's entered as RN Sports and one's entered as Gainer, but they again come out of the same garage together. Now, Gainer, Jim Gainer team, were one that was very interested in moving over to the new GT300 rules cars next season. Now, the new rules mean all the cars, it's very similar to the GT500 rules, all the cars share the same chassis, but you can put any engine on. You can be front or mid-engines, you can have all sorts of different aero packages and do all sorts of development on the car.
Right.
And it's an open development class, unlike the GT3 cars, which are locked in from when they're homologated. There's only one of these cars in existence at the moment, which is Toyota GT86. We saw it at the last round in Thailand.
Yeah.
But that car didn't come back to Japan. It's still in Thailand. They decided to go and race it in the Thai Supercars series, which it dominated, rather.
Whilst, when in Rome, why not compete the car, in the same country somewhere and clearly get good results? By the way, the 2nd and 3rd place fight within GT300 is being fought by the 4 BMW driven now by Tatsuya Katoka, and then in 3rd position, it's the number 10 Mercedes that actually qualified in 8th place, Hideki Yamauchi. And Yamauchi causing Katoka 1 or 2 problems here in the Z4. So all German machinery at the head of the order then for GT300. Mercedes, in fact, there is the race leading car, so that doesn't have the red door mirrors, and the other one does. That's easy to tell the difference now. So it is still the number 11 car that qualified quickest, Bjorn Vernheim, who hasn't been in for a stop yet, has Bjorn?
No, we haven't had a stop from that car that we've seen, certainly, and I think probably looking at the gap, we certainly haven't.
No, Bjorn Vernheim still on board the number 11 car, and then in 2nd position it's the 4 BMW that has stopped, and the 10 Mercedes of Yamauchi, which has also taken a stop.
There's a quick standard driver change and tyre stop for the S-Road Mola Nissan GTR.
And this is number 46, which has had the 10-second penalty, remember, was competing for second position with the 18 Wida Modular Honda, but, well, it's difficult to tell whether the Honda or the Nissan will be ahead now for second place, because, of course, the Honda in the control of Izawa had the stall in pit lane, so that was delayed, and Yanagidi issued a time penalty of 10 seconds, did that at the end of the pit lane. And by the way, Masataka Yanagidi handing over to Satoshi Motoyama now to do the next stint. Motoyama did the quicker time in Q2. Race leader.
That's Ronnie Quintarelli still pounding around, and he's just put a lap on Kaz Nakajima. And Nakajima, of course, has made a stop and has been troubling, but Quintarelli being a full lap ahead now.
And Ronnie Quintarelli does owe us a pit stop with Tsujio Matsuda due to take over the Motul Autech Nissan, but that hasn't happened quite yet, as it's side-by-side action here for second and third within GT300, and the BMW coming under some stern pressure now from Yamauchi, and Yamauchi going to get the move done under braking here, tries to get the Mercedes stop and also not run into that GT500 car, and he's done both at the same time and gets the place from the BMW. So Katoka down a position to third. Finally, the defence of second place is over, and now what can the Mercedes do? Maybe edge away into the distance. This is looking great for Jim Gaynor. I'm
not sure that Hatsune Miku car is given up on that. I think you might see him having another bite at the back of that SLS there.
I think you could be right, although the SLS is starting to just edge away, even in the first couple of corners, having made that move. Difficult one to do that, round the outside of hard braking for turn 2.
But it looks like both cars are due in for stops, indeed, yep. That's what the driver is showing us there on Nismo TV, as the Hatsune Miku car is slightly held up by being lapped by the GT500 cars that are passing at the moment.
We've got well and truly overlap now between 300 and 500 here, with both classifications of cars well mixed up, and that's the
Keeper Tom's RCF there we're looking at on the screen, the number 37 car of Daisuke Ito.
Yeah, Daisuke Ito having taken over from Andrea Caldarelli. I wouldn't expect Ito to be quite matching the Italian's pace, but nevertheless he'll need to hold station for as much as possible. So 27 car in a much better position, 37 car in a much better position than it was once we got underway in this 250-kilometre race. It started 13th, and it's in around about 4th position, I think, net, once all this shakes out. We're still waiting for the outright race leader to make a stop, remember. So the Motul Nissan heads the order, then this big gap back to the second place car, which is the Yui Sekiguchi and Yuichi Wakisawa Lexus. The 19 car, I'm not sure whether that's stopped yet either.
Well, Sugo Matsuda is now ready to get in that car, so we should have a stop in the next few laps, that much is certain. One thing, as we see James Rossiter sitting and looking a bit grumpy with himself, or the situation in general.
Having a word with Andrea Caldarelli, I reckon, and just discussing what happened on that opening lap, no doubt.
I think there will be some choice English words being used right there. But we were asked at the beginning of the race how many pit stops there would be, and one is the definite answer.
Okay, yes, because we are, at half distance now? Pretty much, 2 times 27 is 54. It's a 53 lap race. So this is lap 27, marking half distance, and we could well see the race leader pit on this lap or the next one.
I don't think it'll be this lap, having looked at Matsuda's sort of very comfortable but suited and booted position just a minute or so ago. So you have to jump up and go, and they don't really like doing that, racing drivers. Funnily enough, knowing their chosen careers, you think they'd like doing things quickly, but obviously not.
Maybe not out of the car. They become an entirely different beast once they clamber on board a race car. Now, the second place Mercedes within GT300 is continuing to move away from the number 4 BMW, which is in third position, and the BMW about to be joined by an Audi R8, I notice, presumably on the same lap.
It is indeed. That is for 4th position. He's closing right up on the back of the Hatsune Miku car. Well, as it stands in the GT300 Championship, there is still absolutely no change in the points if the race finished the way it does at the moment.
By the way, the Audi R8 LMS Ultra is the Tomonobu Fuji and Richard Lyons
former
combination.
Nissan driver.
And it's Richard Lyons at the wheel who is catching Kotoka here.
It looks like Kotoka. We have seen that car. We haven't seen that car pit yet. I think his tyres have gone off.
The
Hatsune Miku BMW.
Okay.
I think he's due in the pits. Yeah, I think his tyres have had their best days.
So advice from Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering is pit right now to get some new tyres on that thing, a little bit more grip for the driver that will take over the BMW, which is Nobutera Taniguchi.
Well, there's Ukyo Katayama on the pit wall, managing his Team Ukyo GT300 cars. Famous former Formula One Tyrrell driver of some repute.
Absolutely. Richard Lyons, meanwhile, who's driven all kinds of things under the sun. Oh, yeah, very sideways there for Kotoka as he tries to turn left in the BMW, but a little bit of rear wheel steering because the rears are losing or towards the end of their kind of suitable life, and the Audi R8 working hard to fashion an opportunity to get by. Can't quite do it yet.
That gain of Mercedes is coming back to the pair of them, though. I think they're all, well, apart from the Audi, they all seem to be struggling with tyres a little bit.
Yep, certainly the fight for third position is on here as Richard Lyons does a do-or-die manoeuvre up the inside of the BMW there and just about manages to get the move done just as they head underneath the bridge. And I think he was well aware that the BMW was struggling for grip there and took the opportunity whilst it presented itself.
Yeah, I mean, that BMW clearly hadn't got any fight left. He couldn't come back at that Audi at all. And now let's see what the Audi, Richard Lyons in that Audi, is hammering back up to the Mercedes there. One of the things about GT300 is it's really meant to be a Pro-Am class. You're meant to have one pro driver and one amateur driver in the car. Now, we know that's not registrally enforced, as we see with Team Study, but that's kind of the concept of the class. It's meant to be for amateur teams and tuners, which is why they're trying to get away from these GT3 cars by bringing in the new cars, because, to be honest, GT3 cars are a bit boring. But that, as you were about to point out, would create, finally, a difference in the championship points.
Absolutely. I'll just describe this pit stop first of all, though, for the number 24 car, which is the green and black Nissan GTR, the D-Station Advan Nissan of Michael Krum and Daiki Sasaki. So that heads out back into the race. No, crucial as far as the championship's concerned, because the Bjorn Verdheim machine, which has come into this round in second position in the championship, if it wins this race, and clearly there's a good while to go yet, another 23 laps or so, it will take the championship from the number 4 BMW, which headed the order coming into this round. So we keep getting views of on Nismo TV of the number 4 BMW. Well, that is important as far as the championship's concerned, because as we came to Motegi for the final round of the Super GT season in GT300, it was Kotoka and Taniguchi in that BMW Z4 that leads the standings on 67 points. Bjorn Verdheim, the Swede, along with teammate Kazuyuki Harinaka on 58 points. But the way the cars are ordered at the moment, it'll be the Swede and the Japanese to take the title, with a couple of third place finishes already, 2 second place finishes. This will actually be their first win, but the number 4 BMW, trying to get that championship away from the race leader, comes in for its sole stop this race.
Yeah, that's the Hatsune Miku BMW. Now, someone was saying on Twitter that car's got a big weight penalty. I'm not entirely sure that's accurate, but one of the reasons the S-Road Mola GTR got that stop and go penalty was overtaking under a yellow flag.
Ah, okay. Good stuff.
So
Good find that on Twitter. Yep. So Kotoka handing over the BMW to Taniguchi. And as I say, coming into this round at Motegi, they were championship leaders. 2 wins at the start of the year for the first couple of rounds, in fact, at Fuji and also the opening round at Okayama. And then it hasn't really gone all the BMW's way since then. 2 wins, but then they had a 16th place finish at Autopolis. 15th place finish followed that. There was a 3rd place finish at Thailand, to be fair. But they need to win this race. They need to finish ahead of Verdheim and Harinaka to take the championship. We
have the race leader in the pits. They didn't actually show it on Nismo TV. It cut away in the background. I just saw the distinctive, there you go, Motul livery coming into the pits. So Ronnie Quintarelli jumps out and Matsuda will be jumping in as Quintarelli slowly strolls back to the garage. Probably quite pleased with himself.
I'm sure he is, yeah, after a wonderful opening stint to, yes, OK, take the car from pole position. And of course, he set the pole time, 1:38.258 in qualifying. Now, what can Sugo Matsuda do? I think Ronnie is the slightly quicker driver.
Sugo Matsuda is no slouch.
No slouch, no, fair enough. A 36.5 second stop, and he will feed back in, I reckon, straight back into the race lead. We'll find out in just a moment, but the 23 car is the dominant machine this weekend.
Well, I wonder what would have been for Rossiter, who was obviously very strong going into the weekend.
That is the million-dollar question. As Richard Lyons dives up the inside of the second Jim Gaynor Mercedes and takes second position. So separating the two Mercs at the head of the order. Remember, it is still Bjorn Verdheim that leads in GT300 in the 11 car, but that's a wonderful move there from the Audi R8 LMS Ultra. Richard Lyons at the wheel, still yet to come in for a stop and hand over to Tomonobu Fuji, but the Brit doing a cracking job there to get the Audi up to second position.
And obviously, we still haven't seen pit stops on either of those cars, I don't think. So
right.
We will see them head to the pits, and then they should feed back out, depending on their lap times and where they've sort of appeared, making or losing time with each other, probably around the same pace as the Prius and the Hatsune Miku BMW. So we should get that battle going again.
Michael Crum, having taken over the number 24 D-Station GTR, is now straight into the battle of Izawa, the 18 Ueda car.
I think Izawa is one of these young guys, but I think Honda are pushing him really hard, running him in GP2 and things like that, and they're desperate to put him into an F1 team for 2016. I don't think he will be ready for, or good enough, certainly by 2016, to be in that McLaren seat that everybody's talking about.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because obviously Fernando Alonso will be driving for Porsche in LMP1.
By 2016?
No, next year.
Next year?
Next year. It's definitely confirmed.
It
wasn't confirmed.
No, not at all. He's lying through his teeth there. But there was much rumour, of course, because Alonso was at the Bahrain round of the World Endurance Championship over this weekend. Clearly a fan of the sport, and I think he wants to race at Le Mans, but whether he'll quite be a prototype driver next year, full time, we'll have to wait and see. Doubt it, though. Anyway, back to the final round of Super GT at Motegi, and it's Michael Crum driving a very wide green and black D-Station Advan Nissan here. Keeping behind him Izawa, who of course stalled in the pits, let us not forget, after his stop. Well, Yamamoto brought the car in after a great first stint, handed over to Takuya Izawa, who is clearly one to watch in the future.
Now, we do have an interesting situation at the front of the race. The Wedsport Lexus is currently leading. Now, I haven't seen it in the pits, but they're not showing every single car coming in and out of pit lane. If that is, he's got a 17-second lead over the Nissan, which really has put the cat amongst the GTRs.
That's Yui Sekiguchi, who I think still owes us a pit stop, in all honesty. We'll have to wait and see, but
he wasn't that far behind.
No, okay. We'll see whether the 19 car is in the mix or not, but Yuichi Wakisaka should be getting on board that car. Here comes the race leader in GT300, though. It's the first of the Jim Gaynor Mercedes SLS, and Bjorn Verdheim, after a lengthy opening stint, will finally hand over to teammate Katsuyuki Hironaka.
I suspect Hironaka is, and I don't know much about him, I suspect he is the amateur driver, which is why Verdheim spent much longer in the car, and so they won't lose so much time with the slower amateur driver. Because when you look at the team study, which has got an all-pro lineup, a little bit expect it to be further up. But Study are a strong team in the championship.
Is there a minimum drive time for the amateur driver? Do you know?
With the varying race lengths, I'm not sure what it would be, but it would certainly have to be percentage based if there was such one. I don't actually know the answer to that question.
We're on lap 33, so I'd imagine it's something like a 40%, 60% in the favour of the pro driver. But Bjorn Verdheim clearly pushing the envelope as far as it can go and pitting on lap 33. Well, the leaders are on 33. Of course, the GT300s will be quite a bit behind that. But the Mercedes back out. That looked to be a relatively clean stop. And Katsuyuki Hironaka heads back into the order. And with many of the cars having already made their stops behind it, Hironaka may well be back into the race lead, in fact.
You were right, the Wedsport car hadn't made its pit stop, so it is coming in this lap. So that's why he was in the lead. So he was further back than I expected, actually.
Yeah, the car that's currently in the hands of Sekiguchi qualified in... What was that? Sekiguchi qualified 7th in the number 19 Wed Sport car, the Lexus.
It'll be Juichi Wakisaka getting into the...
Well, indeed.
Getting the car. In fact, there they are, getting into the car.
With a fabulous paint scheme on the number 19 car.
I think that's one of the best-looking race car liveries currently in operation. It's a brilliant layout. Wed Sport, of course, a wheel manufacturer.
Right.
That's why they've got these bright yellow wheels on the car.
Yes, okay.
And the team is run by Bando. Now, Bando is the son of the series promoter. So, you can tell when you talk to the series promoter which manufacturer he likes most.
26.3 seconds in the pits. That's a good stop. We have seen stops from GT500 teams.
A very quick stop.
In the mid-30s, really. 35, 36.
Of course, stopping later, though, less fuel to go in.
Yes, good point. And, well, that's another reason, of course, when you've got to stop at this point in the race, of course, because the car will be on the dregs in the tank. So, 23 leads from the number 19 Wed Sport car, but that is just feeding back into the mixture now.
Just ahead of the 37 Keeper Tom's car, but the Keeper Tom's car is on nicely warmed up tyres, so could quickly get up onto the back of that Wed Sport car in a couple of laps.
And there are no tyre warmers in this category.
No tyre warmers, no.
So it takes a little bit of time, clearly, for the cold tyres to get up to temperature. So even though that car is back out into the race, it may well be caught by the third-place machine very quickly on at least this opening lap before everything gets up to temperature.
Of course, these tyres are designed with that in mind. They're designed to be able to be warmed up and then
quickly
go through a normal racing cycle.
Yeah.
Because it used to be the case, and I'm not sure if it still is. I suspect it is because it's a complete tyre war, that sometimes even individual drivers had a compound designed around them, rather than, and certainly they do design the compounds around each car rather than each individual, a single compound as you'd have in WEC or something like that.
A chance to remind ourselves, if you're watching Nismo TV, and if you are, then welcome on board. It's RadioLeMans.com. Johnny Palmer and Race Car Engineering Sam Collins taking you through the final round of Super GT. The standings that you can see on the graphic on Nismo TV is how the championship stands at the moment, with Quintarelli set to win the championship by 6 points ahead of James Rossiter. So,
it'd be nice to see some DTM cars mixing up in this lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, in the off-season, why not? Chuck a few in.
Well, this is what they're planning to do in 2017. It's going to be called Class 1, and you're going to have the 3 DTM manufacturers and the 3 GT500 manufacturers with a full grid made up of this type of car, the GT500 cars. They all share the same chassis. They will all by then share the same engine regulations, same aerodynamic regulations, and many of the same components. And they're going to have this big sort of shootout. You have a race in Japan and maybe a race somewhere in China and a race in Europe to go head-to-head with it. There was talk of race in the USA. I don't think it's going to happen because for it to happen, the Japanese are insisting that Ford and GM come along, and I just don't think they will. But this will be an epic thing to watch.
I like the sound of that very much.
So for those of you, sitting watching online, when the race is over, just go and Google Class 1 2017, and you will see something quite exciting. A lot of dust coming off there, Rossiter's car.
That wasn't tyre smoke then?
No, I think that was brake dust.
From the discs,
looking at the side of the car, there is a lot of black gunk, which is always a sign of wearing out discs. Yeah, that's certainly not... That's not tyre smoke.
Can't get the car stopped, and all of a sudden he is being caught and even passed here by the number 46 S-Road Mola Nissan, with now Satoshi Motoyama at the wheel. Motoyama having taken more contact, and that's almost exactly the same point as the James Rossiter clash with the Calsonic car on the opening lap, and now sideways.
I think that was a direct result of that, but that Tom's car, the Nakajima Rossiter car, he can't do any more damage on it on that point because it's already broken. But I've just noticed the left rear, which wasn't a part that was hit, now appears to be falling off that Tom's Lexus. So very bad day in the Gatemba
office.
Yes, they're not going to be happy when they head back to Fuji Speedway tonight.
So on Nismo TV, a chance to see this clash as they come through the right-hander underneath the bridge side by side, and it was left rear on front right with Motoyama, to be fair, having made the move, I think, and Kaz Nakajima just needed to yield, and then all of a sudden Motoyama was sideways. I worried that might have been a slight suspension failure after contact, but it looks like the 46 car is back on pace again, and I guess that's Masatoka
Yannick Eady taking a watching brief on the pit wall. Motoyama's teammate.
This is something about the unpredictability of this book. So when we came here to do this, I was thinking, well, this will be the sort of coronation of James Rossiter as a champion. And right now, I'd be amazed if he manages to get, second position. It looks like he's going to drop to third.
Yeah.
And the team that I hadn't really even thought too much about having a big chance of the championship, even though we're certainly strong, it is the Motul branded Nissan GTR, but they're right up the front and looking like they're going to take the title here, because it's going to take a lot for them to be caught up. Now, this will be interesting with the Audi R8, which was challenging for position, is coming back out, and is that the Hatsune Miku car behind him? It certainly is.
Yes, it is. The BMW Z4. So Richard Lyons had brought the Audi in and handed over to teammate Tomonobu Fuji. So Fuji now at the wheel, and the Z4 is behind.
But he is on cold tyres in that Audi R8, and the Z4 is closing, but he has got track position, and that will be an interesting one to see play out, as the Hatsune Miku BMW is right on the back of the Audi R8, which looks very works liveried to me.
And the BMW much closer to the Audi, or much quicker through the right-hander, heading underneath the bridge there and into this swooping right-hander then that was seeing so much contact for the Petronas liveried car and sponsored car. Here comes the BMW up the inside. Is there enough of an open door? Yes, there is.
High temperatures.
Yeah, maybe so. You would imagine that Richard Lyons, had he still been on board the Audi, might have offered a bit more of a defence, but of course Lyons has now handed over to the amateur driver, Tomonobu Fuji. And to be fair to Tomonobu, yes, you're right, the tyres aren't quite up to temperature. The BMW then takes the place and is a bit further up the order, already edging away actually as they work their way through the hairpin now.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see, because the Audi seemed to, when the other tyres were fading on the BMW earlier, the Audi didn't seem to use them up so quickly, but that suggests that maybe the Audi isn't hard enough on its tyres, as the number 2 McLaren is in the pits.
This is lap 37 for the GT500 leaders, by the way. And the McLaren, yes, as you say, stopping, the MP412C of Kazuho Takahashi and Hiroki Kato. So that's the Cintium Apple MP412C, which qualified in 13th position.
Now, I believe that car will either be joined or replaced by a Lotus Evora next year.
Right.
In GT300, built to the Japanese rulebook, not to the GT3 rulebook. So that'll be a very interesting car to see.
Meanwhile, the OGT Panasonic Prius continues on, and it's in second position, by the way.
That's shuffled out well for the Toyota there.
It has. As we said, the pit stops were going to be important, and Koki Saga, having taken over the Prius from Morio Nitta, clearly their stop was more effective than the BMW Z4, which of course has been delayed behind the Audi for a little bit of the time as well. Side-by-side action. Is this for second place in GT500?
It is. It's Lexus on Lexus action, and I think we had a bit of contact there.
With this fabulous paint scheme then for the car that has only recently stopped. That was the machine that you wondered for a little while whether it was outright leading. Well, it wasn't. Yuichi Wakisaka having taken over the Wedsport car, and the place change then as through goes Izawa in the number 18 Honda NSX.
Yeah, we've got a couple of disappointments in this race for me, and I think for some of the people in the paddock as well. The performance of the Honda NSX hybrid concepts just isn't good enough. They didn't get the cooling quite worked out this year, and on their home track, everybody expected them to be a bit stronger. It was expected that they'd be on pole and maybe even have a chance of winning this race. They're nowhere here. Another disappointment, I think, is Izawa. He's not really been that strong all year, and the Subaru has been a disaster. But the most disappointed people who are the ones we're looking at right now, Caldarelli and Rossiter, who look like they want to go home right away.
It's 20 points at the moment, going the way of Sugio Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli, which will mean that they finish on 81 points, and as we stand, they'll win the championship by 2 points. 2 points separating them between those two, the Italian and the Japanese, and another Italian and Japanese, Andrea Caldarelli and Daisuke Ito. So 79 points that they are due to have, and then James Rossiter will only finish in third position on 78 points. No, sorry, third position in the championship rather, and that will be 71 points for James. And there's nothing he can do. I mean, clearly he's out of the car now and handed over to Kaz Nakajima, but the car does not have pace after that opening lap skirmish. And
it wasn't his fault either.
No,
he completely caught up in somebody else's accident.
As proven by the decision by the clerk of the course as well to penalise the other driver involved, which was the Calsonic car.
Well, it looks like we may have a tie on points currently as things sit in GT300. So if this doesn't get settled in the next 14 laps, I guess it'll go to count back for the number of race wins which you have in front of you.
Well, yes. It was very close coming into this round. The top two separated by just 9 points, and that graphic would indicate they'll both end up on 78 points, but Bjorn Verdheim and Katsuyuki Hiranaka will only have the one win after this weekend, playing 2 wins that Kotoka and Taniguchi got at the start of the season. Yes, okay, their season may well have gone a bit awry through the mid-spell, or topless. They got a 16th place finish, but prior to that, at Okayama and Fuji, it was a double win, and that might stand them in good stead if they are tied on points on 78 by the end of this.
No, I think that it's going to be an interesting one, that, because I think there's the tyre wear and the performance of these drivers is going to just... I think we could see a bit of yo-yoing at the front still.
What's happening between the third place BMW and the fourth placed Audi? It's continuing to edge out a gap, isn't it?
The Audi's coming back at him.
Oh, beg your pardon. Okay, so that is Fuji finding his feet then, warming the tyres up, and the Audi is catching now.
7 tenths the last time by. So that graphic you see on the screen it's not lap by lap there. That's sector by sector.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have he's homing in on the back of the Hatsune Miku car now. So this is what we saw before. Once his tyres get up to temperature and the BMW starts to use its tyres up a bit, the Audi seems to come on stronger and stronger just before it has to stop. As Ukyo Katayama, the owner of that Audi, is quite keen on that to happen.
All German machinery, though, of course. The Mercedes very dominant at the head of the order of GT300. We've got an Audi duking away with a BMW. Meanwhile, a couple of the GT500 machines either side of a BMW. Well, actually, there's a 500, and then is that...
well, now we get a great illustration, actually. You have the B-Max Nissan GTR, which is a GT3
car,
and then the green and black car behind is also a GTR, but that's a GT500. And you can see how much wider and lower the GT500 car is and how much quicker it is.
Although the rear wing on the 300 car is vast, and I almost expected that to be the quicker car, if you like, a 500 car. It needs a little more downforce. I suppose that the 500 car is a bit more nimble on its feet, is it, and doesn't need quite as much downforce.
The 500 car has a huge amount more downforce, but it makes it in a very different way. It's got lots of little winglets. It's also got much better tyres, and by regulation, better drivers.
Yes.
I think it's a lot lighter as well.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, of course, because the GT300 cars are a little more standard, if you like. I mean, we're not talking Group N here, but
these are GT3 cars. I mean, the GT3 GTR is based on a production car. It has a production shell. It has lots of production components in it, and it's, I believe, currently the cheapest, almost cost-effective, if you like to put it in those terms, GT3 car that money can buy, and it's clearly a very competitive car. The GT500 is a pure racing car. There's no road car in that at all.
There are similarities in the way they look compared to the road car, but there are no similar parts at all, as you say. It's a purebred race car, much like a DTM machine is nowadays. When you look at some of the DTM cars, yes, okay, I can tell that's a BMW, I can tell that's a Mercedes, for instance, but they compare not at all to their road-going counterparts.
And it's not to forget, as we have a battle brewing in the GT500 class, that these are actually DTM cars.
Yes. For 2014, that's the new way that GT500 is going and generating a lot of interest. Wakisaka then managing to fend off Krum, but again some of that brake dust issuing from the front wheels, as we saw for Kaz Nakajima in the Petronas car not too long ago, the 36 machine.
Well, I don't think Krum's going to stay there for long by the look of this.
He is in the green and black D-Station GTR and trying to force the number 19 machine into a mistake. It's Yuichi Wakisaka, who has recently taken the car over from Yui Sekiguchi, put in a great opening stint in that Wedsport Lexus, one of the later cars to pit, as indeed actually was the green and black 24 car. Michael Krum having taken over from Daiki Sasaki.
And now that Krum he may have a run now. I'm not sure he's going to quite make that stick going into the corner as they come up on that gain of GT300 there. And that's going to be slightly interesting corner.
Yes, the Mercedes having to turn in, of course, can't just evaporate that Mercedes. It needs to work its way through the corner at some point.
But straight onto the back of them was that Dome Honda.
Yes, trying desperately to try and stay out of the way. The second the Jim Gaynor Mercedes did a very good job in the end as they head over the line then to complete lap 42, or at least the race leader is doing. And this third place battle ain't too far away from there. So it's Wakisaka, Michael Crum, and now Izawa, despite that stall in the pit lane, has a chance here to pick off two runners. Izawa has taken his time to catch this third place battle, but we definitely have a three-way split now for third place.
And it's one each from each of the manufacturers, so you get to have a look at the two front-engined cars, which are the ones in front, the Lexus and the Nissan, and then you have the mid-engined hybrid Honda at the back there, the silver and blue car.
And almost into the final 10 laps of this final round of the season. It's RadioLeMans.com, Nismo TV. Thank you for joining us, whichever of those you've chosen. Sam Collins, the Deputy Editor of Race Car Engineering, and Johnny Palmer taking you through the closing stages then of round 8 of the Super GT Championship. It's Motegi, the twin ring, 18 degrees Celsius air temperature, 24 track temperature on lap 40. So track temperature stayed pretty level actually since the start of the race. And despite a dominant leader in the form of Sugio Matsuda in the number 23 Motul Nissan GTR, second place pretty stable as well. This third place fight could go any which way. By the way, it's the 37 Keeper Tom's Lexus of Andrea Caldarelli and now Daisuke Ito that is in second position. Bear in mind that car qualified 13th, but a wonderful opening stint from the Italian Caldarelli set that car up well for a championship dice. But it needs to get ahead of the race leader to take the championship outright. Currently the top two in the championship separated by just 2 points. And look at this third place battle, Sam, heading out of the final corner and over the line to complete lap 43. It is still Wed Sport from D Station from Weeder, but not a lot of real estate between all three cars.
And, there is the car at the back there has a real point to prove. This is on Honda's home ground, and they have a shocker. They need to get a podium here. They need to get something to celebrate. And, Izawa's going to have a go right now, I think, on the D-Station car. But the D-Station car is quite happy having a go at the Lexus. There we go.
Yeah, Michael Crum thought about an outside move into turn 2. That didn't quite work, though, on the Wed Sport number 19 car. And meanwhile, as you say, Izawa, who's looming large in the mirrors of both of these cars, may be able to capitalise as the two ahead of him scrap away. They may be unaware of, I'm sure they're not unaware of Izawa's presence, but nevertheless, Crum more concentrated on getting by the car in front than defending.
Well, you'll notice the two cars they're coming up to overtake. Of course, that is the GT300 battle as well, with that Hatsune Miku car being hunted down by that Audi, but the Audi seems to have dropped back a bit, but maybe that Audi hasn't spotted the, well, he has now, but the large amount of GT500 cars on behind him.
Yeah, that's Fuji in the Audi, sensibly staying just off the racing line to allow all three 500 cars through in one swoop. So they're heading up to the tight hairpin now, towards the end of the lap, and Izawa overlapping on Crum, but to the outside line, tries to cut back, but it doesn't quite get the momentum out of the hairpin bend.
He's going to have a run down into this right-hand corner as they go under the bridge this time by, but I think Crum's going to try and have a go on, the Hatsune Miku car's kind of spoiled everybody's attempts there, but the
side
BMW who nearly hit the Hatsune Miku. BMW very nearly hit the Dome Honda there of Izawa, and I think, well, it didn't cost Izawa anything, but he's still not giving up. This is going to be great to watch. It's going to go for the next 10 laps.
10 laps to go, absolutely. And yeah, almost side-to-side contact with Izawa and the Taniguchi BMW Z4. Still, that hasn't really splayed out the battle for third, fourth and fifth, though, as this time, no, that's just the three cars lapping a slower GT300 machine. Meanwhile, third place. Oh, they're all going to go for the same bit of tarmac at the same time. That was never going to work.
Not touch?
No idea. I think there was a bit of a touch between Izawa and Michael Crum, but Crum was able to stabilise a slight spin. It was only a little bit offline, and hopefully not too much damage was done there as Izawa just stabbed the nose up the inside of the German, but it didn't quite come off. Meanwhile, what's happening in third and fourth of GT300? The Audi, you're quite right, is still catching the BMW. So Richard Lyon's teammate, Tomonobu Fuji, has taken a bit of time just to get to grips with the Audi, with its new tyres, and get everything up to temperature, but it's now starting to close in on the number 4 BMW. Bear in mind, the 4 BMW looking to try and take the championship this weekend as well, but needs to improve its current position to do that.
Yeah, I think that Audi, he's managed to take a second out of him in the last 5 laps. He's just slowly going as Izawa has a lunge down the inside at the hairpin. Doesn't make it stick this time either. He's doing everything he can to get past Crum, but Crum's doing everything he can to get past the Lexus there.
Great driving from Michael Crum. Saw Izawa coming there up the inside, and to be fair, gave him racing room. This time Michael Crum steps out of line of the car just ahead, but doesn't get by.
Billowing brake dust off that Lexus as all three of them come round as one to the start of the lap once more, and it's great to watch this. I'm really enjoying it.
Wakisaka holding up a great defence in the number 19 Wed Sport RCF then, and as you say, it's Lexus from Nissan GTR from the Honda NSX, a wonderful spread of manufacturers.
And there goes Crum.
This might be Michael Crum's opportunity. He's drawn level with Wakisaka, but he's got the outside line for what is a left-hander, and what's Izawa up to? He's not going to overtake the two at the same time, surely not, no.
He thought about it, certainly, but he's going to have a go, and he's got Crum as well, has he? Not quite.
Good driving from Crum there, because he realised he'd lost out on the opportunity to get third position, but he loses out on fourth as well, as finally Izawa gets by Michael Crum, and Crum was on the back step there because he'd made the attempted move for third position. All of a sudden found himself on the outside line, and Izawa wasn't going to be asked twice there, into fourth, and all of a sudden the third car that was in the sequence now up to second in this little group. So Izawa in the Ueda NSX, right on the tail now of Wakisaka.
Just watch Crum come winding back into him while Wakisaka and Izawa hold each other up. In fact, there is Crum just getting onto the back of him as we cut to a replay of that lovely bit of racing, wheel to wheel all the way round.
It was Crum side by side and level with Wakisaka. Couldn't make the move stick though round the outside, and Wakisaka, to be fair, had to turn in there, and that was his corner. But then Crum caught on the outside line, couldn't defend from Izawa, and Izawa finally gets the place. So 1 place gained, and Izawa trying to break as late as possible as they all three of them lapped the
that was the
Prius,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Second position in the GT300 class. He's out on his own, so I don't think he's going to be challenged too much in the next 8 laps. But this battle, Crum is not going to stand for that for very long, but Izawa has a point of honour to prove.
Wakisaka over the line then to complete another lap. We've got 8 to go. Someone behind the checkered flag, because this is wonderful stuff. Here comes Izawa up the inside of turn number 1. He's level with Wakisaka and should just about get the move done. Michael Crum wants a bit of it as well, but Crum's still in 5th position. But Izawa, fabulous driving this to head from 5th up to 4th up to 3rd, and blimey, punching the air there is his teammate Naoki Yamamoto, thoroughly chuffed with Taiyuki Izawa's progress through the field. I think that might be it, though, for the overtaking for Izawa, but on for a podium is this driver with so much potential. Formula One drivers sniffing round him for a couple of seasons' time, Izawa. And, well, it didn't start this stint particularly well with a stall in the pit lane. As Michael Crum makes a move up the inside, there's very nearly contact between Wakisaka and Crum there for 4th position. Wed Sport Lexus versus D-Station Nissan. Doesn't quite get it done, though, Michael Crum. Remains in 5th position.
Well, I'm just having a look at the home team statistics, how Honda have got on this season, and I'm just trying to find out if this will be the first podium for Honda this year, because they really have had such a bad year, and there was a couple of races that I didn't follow quite as closely as I should do earlier in the season, so I'm now just going to have a look at that and come back to you, as you've got a great battle between Crum carrying on.
Yeah, Michael Crum over the white line there to driver's right. That was heading out of the hairpin and past the support paddock and nearly into the concrete wall was Michael Crum. Not necessarily that he was being driven towards that part of the circuit, he just decided to take that line as they headed towards the end of the lap. This is the end of the lap, in fact, and there'll be 7 to go this time, as the number 19 car then is still keeping up a decent defence. This is Yuichi Wakisaka in the Lexus, sticking the elbows out and keeping behind him Michael Crum in the green and black Nissan GTR, the D-Station Advan. And once again, well, this is like 2 laps ago, deja vu or what, Michael Crum, door mirrors clattering into each other as Michael Crum tries to get the car stopped, and Wakisaka just running a little bit wide. Door open briefly at turn 4, but slams it shut in Michael Crum's face. But Crum has the pace here, I feel, to get into 4th position. He's just got to bide his time. We're running out of laps, though, I suppose.
There's that Michael Crum's there, but looking up, it's the S-Road Mola GTR coming up. Just on the Honda point, they've had lots of podiums. I'm talking nonsense on that one.
Interesting thought, but not the case in the end. So the S-Road GTR is indeed catching. Now, on lap 42, it was something like 11 seconds behind. He's whittled that down by 10 seconds over the last, 5 laps?
It's because these guys have been holding each other up, scrapping, eating their tyres up, and he's just been, because he had a pit stop earlier in the penalties, slowly been working his way in clean air, and these guys are going to get mugged by him, I think.
Here comes Michael Crum up the inside of the hairpin. Can he get the car stopped? Oh, he takes Wakisaka almost with him out towards the grass, and this is then the chance for the 6th place car to overlap Wakisaka, and Wakisaka trying to edge the car towards the pit lane wall there, the support paddock, but Wakisaka can't hold off what was 6th place car, now 5th place machine. And clearly the 46 car very, very quick indeed to have...
Yeah, Crum's going to have to watch his back on this one.
To have whittled down that time in such a short period of time. 5 laps to find 10 seconds. So this is Motoyama, is it, in the S-Road Mola car? Yeah.
This is Satoshi Motoyama, who we saw in a Delta Wing at Nissan Delta Wing at Le Mans a few years ago.
Yeah, that was, last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, blimey, doesn't time fly? Okay.
3 years ago?
It was the Ziod this year, wasn't it?
The year before.
Last year,
something else.
We didn't have anything, and the year before that.
We had a non-hydrogen car that didn't.
That's right, that didn't appear. So the 2012 season saw the Delta Wing at Le Mans. Meanwhile, the Audi, now driven not by Richard Lyons. He took the opening stint. It's weaving from left to right, and Lyons handed over the car quite late on, actually, in the race to Tomonobu Fuji.
I think he's getting a bit of heat in his tyres just to prepare for that final push to get past that Hatsune Miku BMW and get on the podium, and that will have championship implications.
It has been within 9/10 of a second of the BMW once prior to this situation. We're down to 9/10 again then between the BMW and the Audi. Gap had opened up very slightly. By the way, the race still led overall by the number 23 GT500 car. It's been so dominant, the Motul Nissan. Sugio Matsuda now driving that. Ronnie Quintarelli took the opening stint, and of course, if that car wins the race, the team will win the championship. This is how things stand in GT300 on Nismo TV. A prediction, a kind of look ahead to if the current order finished as it is. We've got a tie on 78 points then between Taniguchi and Kotoka and the second place car, and we've already done the count back, by the way, in terms of race wins so far, and it very slightly favours Kotoka and Taniguchi with their 2 wins at the start of the season. Bjorn Verdheim and Kazuka Yuki Harinaka will have only had 1 win, and that's here in Motegi. Their best results after that, a couple of second places earlier on in the season and 2 third place finishes at the start of the year. But if it's done on first place finishes, if there is a tie on 78 points, it will go the way of Kotoka and Taniguchi.
Well, it looks like that's the way it may go, as we have a quick look at the GT300 leader, Hiranaka, in the Gainer Dixel SLS. So on the GT3 spec cars running in this race. Most of the GT300 cars is currently GT3 spec, but there are some others in there, and there will be a lot more others next year, and it's going to be very interesting to class that next year. A lot of the engineers want to move cars into that because they can do more.
The race leader leads by nearly 50 seconds now over the Keeper Tom's Lexus of Daisuke Ito.
He's kind of dominant Nismo performance on this.
Very much so, yeah. In Q2, well, it kind of looked that way as Ronnie Quintarelli set a 138.258 and Satoshi Motoyama was at 138.592, so a little over 0.3 of a second separated them in Q2. And with only 4 laps to go now, this 53-lap race, the 23 car so dominant. It's had a trouble-free run in stints 1 and 2. Only stopped once, as every other car in this field has, by the way. Well, that was kind of the intention. We've had a couple of stop-go penalties, a 10-second penalty for one of the GT500 cars as well. Meanwhile, the BMW...
Well, he's beginning to get a bit more of a gap on that Audi, and I suspect the Audi might be... I don't think he's running out of tyres, but I think the driver in it isn't being able to get the best out of them, which is why we're seeing weaving around so much. He desperately wants to get past.
Yeah, cementing the position in third place then, that BMW, as the Motul GTR then heads out of the hairpin. With
just extending the gap.
50-second advantage, very nearly, yeah.
It's just been absolutely... I mean... Pole position, disappeared off the start, no one ever saw him again.
Hard work certainly done by Italian Quintarelli, but Sugio Matsuda has driven a fabulous stint as well, just clipping the apex perfectly there and heading into this sort of stadium section to end the lap. Turns right and heads over the line. There'll be 3 to go this time then for the race leader, number 23, the Motul Nissan.
A few years ago there was a request from Super GT that the champion in GT500 would take their car to Le Mans and race it as Garage 56.
That's
it was a formal request, and there was a meeting about it, but I don't know if it ever happened. It'd be interesting to see if Nissan would like to see that this, if it is the champion car, and it looks like it will be, it would be quite fun seeing that running around in June, wouldn't it? Seeing as we don't appear to have a Garage 56 car.
True enough, yeah, good point. Up the inside of the BMW goes one of the Lexus GT500 machines, and that in turn is going to be lapped by the overall race leader as Matsuda dives up the inside of the BMW Z4 there. So the third placed BMW and the fourth placed Audi are still circulating at a relatively similar distance. If anything, the advantage is back with the BMW, I'd say. Daisuke Ito still on course for a second place finish, but that's not going to be enough for the championship.
No, it looks like it's going to go the way of the Nissan. So the series ranking, as we look at it, James Rossiter came in here with it all to lose, but looked like it was going to be an easy win. But Tsudo Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli now are sitting pretty at the top of the points table if it were to finish like this, and it probably will do with their 50-second lead. They've got a pit stop in hand and 3 laps to go, so it's hard to see anyone getting in front of them right now.
James Rossiter set to gain only 2 points from this race, by the way. Didn't score well at Okayama at the start of the season when he got a 13th place finish. Don't get any points for 13th place. Also had a 9th place for 2 points earlier on the season, but this is his, well, once you take out the 13th place finish earlier on the race, this equals his worst result, if you like, at Motegi.
Well, we thought the BMW, we just said the last lap it was going to get away, but he lost a huge amount of time in the second sector, and the Audi is right on the back of him now with only 0.5 of a second between them.
So slight mistake possibly for the BMW driver, and this shouldn't change. Well, it might change actually the championship situation. Yeah, because the 4 car heading out of that corner then being caught by the Audi.
The Audi is still desperately weaving around to try and get heat in his tyres, I think. So, 2 laps to go. He's going to have a bit of a go quite soon.
Yeah, running out of time here for the GT300 class. Of course, they have completed a lot less laps than the GT500 car, but as soon as the GT500 car finishes the race, then everyone else that received the checkered flag immediately afterwards, their race ends there. And 0.6 of a second between the 4 BMW and the 21 Audi now. 0.7 of a second. It's fluctuating between sort of 7/10, 5/10, and I think the Audi can catch the BMW. It's just a question of whether that Beamer can then keep the Audi behind for just 2 more laps for the race leader, Matsuda, in the number 23 Nissan.
Well, I don't think the Audi's quite got it. He's closing. He keeps on threatening to have a look, but I think he's just trying to worry the BMW off the track rather than try and overtake him. I don't think that Audi driver is happy with the tyres on the car. As we cut away to look at the leader on Nismo TV, and it is indeed a Nissan GTR.
Yeah, heading into turn 1 then for the final time, and still in the background, the battle for 3rd and 4th within GT300 rages on. Of course, if the number 3 BMW does lose out on 3rd position, that then won't be enough points to level on 78 with Bjorn Verdheim and Katsuyuki Hiranaka. So despite their 2 wins, if they finish 4th, that won't be championship victory. So I'm sure Hiranaka and certainly Verdheim, who's taking the watching brief on the pit wall here, the Swede, will be willing the Audi on here to edge by the BMW and give them the championship, their late charge. At the moment, both teams will finish on 78 points.
There's not much in it, but this Audi's really going to have to go something. He's only got a few corners left, and there's not many opportunities to pass for these cars, and he's a long way back.
Not close enough at the moment for me.
If I was in that driving seat, I'd just have a go from miles back, just see what happens.
Well, there's the hairpin still to come on this lap, I suppose.
Just see what happens.
So deep on the brakes.
Yeah. you're not going to lose, are you?
True enough. I mean, you might take third position and then be done by the stewards afterwards for an audacious manoeuvre. Meanwhile, the Motul Nissan then on course for a victory to end the season, but more crucially, championship honours then to wrestle the championship away from James Rossiter, from Andrea Caldarelli and Daisuke Ito. Remember that Ronnie Quintarelli and Sugio Matsuda came into this round 6 points off the championship lead, third in the driver's standings, but over the line goes the Motul Nissan to take the victory on Nismo TV. Then it is Sugio Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli that started the car to take their second win of the season. They had a couple of second places this year as well. Those have been their only podium results, but they will finish the season on 81 points, as meanwhile the BMW heads over the line in third position, and I reckon therefore just about, Sam, gets the championship. It'll be on the countback.
Indeed, it's just been confirmed.
Taniguchi and Katoka confirmed as the GT300 champions, level on points with their rivals Verdheim and Hironaka, but because they've had 2 wins compared to Verdheim and Hironaka's 1 win, they will have the championship. What a finish to the season.
Well, winning the GT300 class was that Jim Gaynor SLS, the 11 car, just ahead, well, a long way ahead of the OGT Toyota Prius, which was a distant second position, and then we saw the Hatsune Miku champion car finishing just ahead of the 21 Audi R8 to settle the title in a rather exciting way. Second position in GT500 was the Lexus RCF in keeper colours. Then the Dome Wider NSX in third position. The third position for Izawa there. He managed to do it as we get a bit of a scrap for position between 2 cars on the last lap in GT500. That is the Mugen Honda CRZ fighting with the second.
Oh, this is the winner of GT300 who hasn't actually crossed the line yet,
despite having been declared as a finisher.
Indeed. Well, yeah, I suppose because the BMW and the Audi have finished behind them. So now the Jim Gaynor Mercedes number 11 heads over the line and is declared the winner. And congratulations to Hironaka and Bjorn Verdheim, who just missed out on the championship. And how galling must that be to be level on points but only have the 1 win to your name compared to the 2 of the BMW. But nevertheless, they tried their hardest. They knew they had to win the race. They couldn't affect where the BMW finished in the end, of course.
Yeah, and it ended up being the most thrilling way for us to watch.
Absolutely. Oh, great for the spectators and us commentators alike. So, a fabulous end then to the Super GT season here in Motegi in both the 500 and the 300. It's been a new wave for the championship, a new era, if you like, and many tears being shed there by the winning teams on the pit wall. Lights flashing from championship winner Sugio Matsuda, sharing that with Ronnie Quintarelli. But I'm sure the organisers, JAF, of this championship will be thoroughly chuffed with how it's all finished for both in the 500 and the 300, to have both championships go down to the wire and virtually down to the final lap as well.
It was very controversial when they appointed these new regulations to the DTM cars. It was not a popular decision amongst many teams and engineers in the paddock, but the racing this year has been spectacular all year long. It's been really good, entertaining stuff. The cars look good. I'm told the costs have come down significantly.
Okay, yeah.
They're still in the millions and millions of pounds, but they are a lot cheaper than they were. And yeah, in GT300, well, the GT3 cars, I think, are still a little bit too strong, a bit too dominant. That will change next year, I think. SRO, Stefan Ratel, is somewhere there at Motegi today, having meetings with them, trying to work out a new system for next year. Does it mean we'll see the full-on GT300 cars in Europe? I doubt it, but I'd like to think so. But overall, it's been a fantastic season, and it's been really great to be able to commentate on it on a couple of races.
Absolutely,
I'm hoping that the guys at Nismo TV, I'm sure, are listening to this, will let us do quite a lot more next year.
That would be great, to be let rip on perhaps the whole season. We'll wait and see. RadioLeMans.com, Nismo TV, watching Sugio Matsuda stepping out then of the championship-winning Nissan, and there is a thoroughly chuffed BMW driver clambering out of the Z4, knowing that he has just won the championship as well. It is Nobutiri Taniguchi sharing the car with Tatsuya Katoka, and they get the championship, level on points with Hironaka and Verdheim, but with 2 wins at the start of the year and a third-place finish here. Motegi will have good memories for both the BMW squad and the number 23 Nissan team heading home from this venue. And so it's good to see that a lot of the cars are actually parked up on the pit straight there for the spectators.
That's something they have to do.
Oh, right,
at the end of the race, the cars are all parked up on the pit straight in finishing formation in battered and bruised. The teams aren't allowed to touch them. It's a park firming situation. But the spectators can go right up to the wall and get their pictures taken and do their selfies and whatever you like, and get up close and have a look at the car. It's something that a lot of series should probably consider.
Yeah, I think a lot can be learned from spectator, not necessarily full-on access, but just an ability to see the drivers and the cars up close. It just brings everyone a little bit closer to the sport, I think.
Well, that's a very happy Ukyo Katayama. His car has just taken the title. One of the things though that the organisers have done for this race is they wanted to get more girls interested in Super GT.
Yeah.
So they had education classes on Super GT for females. If you
wanted
to, you could go along, and on Saturday and Sunday at Motegi, you could go and have a lesson taught by a driver on Super GT.
So much congratulation taking place there at Motul Nissan, and thumbs up from both Matsuda and Quintarelli. A thought for James Rossiter right now. He did all that he could, of course. I think the pace was there in the fourth placed qualified car, but a clash with the Calsonic machine on the opening lap meant he wasn't able to complete a hat-trick of wins. Of course, he'd won at Suzuka and in Thailand prior to this race. 67 points, not exactly well placed in the championship. Yes, okay, leading, but only by a slim margin, 3 points. And he ends up, finishing 9th. And 2 points you get for that, so finishes on 69 points. That means he's 3rd in the championship.
I wonder if he's spoken to Oliveira.
Interesting. I doubt it somehow. João Paulo de Oliveira is again a name for the future and has performed well in Super Formula this year. It was just those coldish tyres, wasn't it, on the opening lap that de Oliveira wasn't able to control the car through the first sequence. Well, it was partway around the lap actually, and it was side-by-side action with James Rossiter. De Oliveira making a move very early on in the race, wasn't able to make it stick, and sadly those two cars came into contact.
Well, looking at Sugo Matsuda there on Nismo TV, giving an interview. We're not playing it to you because it's in Japanese, and we're assuming you probably don't speak it, but actually it doesn't really matter because he, at the beginning of the interview, was pretty much speechless anyway. He's very emotional. I don't think they expected to win this one. No,
and I think they were outside, an outside bet for the championship as well. I mean, João Paulo de Oliveira and Hironobu Yasuda were in with a chance of a championship win as well at the start of the race. Remember, it was 20 points for a win. They were on 60, but in the end it was the car and team that was just 6 points back from James Rossiter that have netted the championship win. And, well, you can't take anything away from the 23 squad because they just drove a faultless race from start to finish, won it by 50 seconds.
That's a huge margin, and it's interesting to see because with all the success ballast and fuel flow restriction taken away, that's the real pace of these cars. So that Nissan is the fastest GT500 car.
And Ronnie Quintarelli deserves an awful lot of credit for the foundation at the start of the race that he was then able to hand over to Matsuda. Matsuda was not able to just manage the gap, but increase it by half a second or so per lap, really. The statistics were quite startling when they gave the last sort of 5 or 6 laps of the race, and the gap was continuing to grow. Just no answer, unfortunately, from Daisuke Ito in the second place machine. So it's Ito that finishes in second position with his Italian teammate, Andrea Caldarelli. It was a great stint, actually, from Caldarelli to really get that car into the mix. And a second-place finish here at Motegi nets them second place in the championship. That's actually how they stood coming into this round.
Well, it's very... not quite as emotional, Ronnie Quintarelli, but I think that's probably the European racing driver against a Japanese racing driver.
True enough, yeah. And I suppose this isn't necessarily a home race for him, but nevertheless, Quintarelli, this will be a significant part of his CV now.
I think there's going to be a few Sankis sunk in Yokohama tonight.
Could be right there, Sam. Absolutely. So GT 500 champions, Super GT champions, Matsuda and Quintarelli. And let's not forget, of course, the BMW squad, Nobutera Taniguchi and Tatsuya Katoka, who have taken the GT3 honours away from Björn Vernheim and Katsuyuki Harinaka. the dying stages, and had that Audi got in front of Fuji by the Fuji-driven Audi by the end of the race, it would have been a very different story. As the GT300 drivers are now being interviewed.
That's Taniguchi. He is now obviously the champion, alongside his teammate, who we'll see in a minute. But in the middle of them is the team owner, Ukyo Katayama, the former Tyrrell driver. He owns this Good Smile Hatsune Miku Z4. And it's the Team Ukyo car, and he looks like he's very happy.
Good livery on the BMW Z4 as well. It's almost like an art car.
The Itasha car, they call them Itasha. It's a trend they have out there, and it's meant to be. It's fashionable at the same time, unfashionable.
Yeah, I can see that absolutely. And Kadoka then being interviewed following his teammate Taniguchi.
Well, it's going to be a big story for all. It's going to be on all the newsstands. I can see it in sort of Autosport magazine Japan, and sort of on the newsstand in a week or so. I'm sure that will be the front cover. Or depending on what happens in Formula 1, but I'm pretty sure that will be the front cover of that edition. And this is a big deal in Japan, this championship, a really big deal. And for Nismo to win it, I mean, that's going to be quite a popular victory. So,
and is it gaining even more momentum, do you feel? Is it getting even bigger? With this new direction for GT500.
Well, we're talking about, aren't we?
That's true, absolutely. I've Radio Le Mans on board. It must be huge.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's got to be. The radio channel that covers the WEC and Super GT. I mean, that's it's the only thing to really listen to, isn't it? But no, the thing being on Nismo TV is an absolutely fantastic move from Nissan, who are doing a lot to promote motorsport across the board, and this is part of that whole move. And I think the reach that hopefully this will bring Super GT to a whole bunch of new fans. We're going to see a big following build up outside of Japan for this championship, and this will start to be more and more and more. And then when Class 1 arrives, it's going to be huge. So I think this is what we're seeing the build up to. What happens with the GT300 cars? Well, I think we're going to see them becoming the dominant GT racing class, certainly in Asia, if not globally.
So expecting a podium in a moment or two as the masses of crowds start to work their way to the exits.
They've got a long, long way home.
Just back to the car, first of all, and then there'll be a huge queue to get out of this Motegi complex, I'm sure.
Just one windy road through a bunch of hills. And
it is kind of in the middle of nowhere, I suppose, this circuit. But I think it's provided a good venue. I mean, classic racing.
It's great racing, yeah. I mean, I said at the beginning it doesn't always provide good racing compared to some of the other circuits. Well, that was wrong.
Yeah, yes. No, you warned me that it might be a little bit of a dull race to end the season, but far from it. Jim Gaynor and his drivers are assembled by the pit wall, just awaiting
look at the facial
podium.
expressions. That tells you all you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, they tried their hardest, didn't they? Katsuyuki Hironaka and Bjorn Verdheim, the Japanese and the Swede, respectively, in the number 11 Mercedes. Couldn't have done an awful lot more than take pole position and then win the race, but they needed the BMW to finish worse than third position, and in the end the Beamer gets on the podium despite hard pressure. And here is then confirmation of the provisional result within GT500, a win for the 23 Motul Nissan, Matsuda and Quintarelli, winning by 51.7 seconds in the end from the Keeper Toms Lexus of Daisuke Ito and Andrea Caldarelli. Third position for the 18 car of Izawa and Yamamoto, and you have to look down to where to see Rossiter. It's 10th place in the end for Kaz Nakajima and James Rossiter, so just a single point. The number 36 car fell behind the 39 in the dying stages of Ishiura and Ollie Jarvis, who we didn't mention all race actually, but there was another Brit in the race, Ollie Jarvis, with his much Audi experience in both DTM and at Le Mans, of course. He ran in the fourth Audi R18 a couple of years back, didn't he? Here's the GT300 provisional result.
I didn't realise that.
A full lap.
Yeah.
How dominant was the 11 car? So not only a pole position for the Gaynor SLS and a win for Hironaka and Verdheim, but they also lapped the field. It wasn't enough to take the championship. They finish ahead of the Toyota Prius of Nitta and Saga, but the championship winners, the number 4 BMW of Taniguchi and Takota, and Katoka and Taniguchi finishing, as I say, a full lap behind the 11 car, but still net the championship despite hard pressure from the Audi of Richard Lyons and Fuji. And there is the lower order of GT300. and you get a good indication there of the spread of marks and makes up and down the order, including a couple of Honda CRXs.
Well, here we have a look at the championship standing. 81 points for Matsuda and Quintarelli. As things stacked up in the end, Ito Caldarelli, 79, and James Rossiter on his own with 68 points.
Yeah, just a point added this weekend. So the gap in the end, just 2 points. As you can see, 81 plays 79. Congratulations to Yamamoto, who gets 4th position in the 18 machine. And further down the order, well, Izawa had a good race in the 18 car. Hasn't taken part in anywhere near all of the rounds, though. Just gets 11 points for his troubles, but he'll be one to watch in the future. GT300, as we say, a tie at the top of the standings on 78 points for Taniguchi and Kataka and Hironaka and Wertheim, but it goes the way of the BMW because of those 2 race wins as opposed to 1. Jürg Müller and Ara, who pitted very early in their number 7 BMW, were never really in the mix at the pointy end of the field, but consolidate 3rd position nevertheless.
Well, 4th position in the GT300 Championships, one worth mentioning, Hoshino and Ordonez.
Yeah.
Ordonez, obviously the chap who used to play PlayStation games and was quite good at it, got picked up by Nissan and dropped into a GTR, and is now, if you wondered what had happened to him, well, he's gone off to Japan and is doing quite well by the look of it.
Lucas Ordonez, yes, the first ever winner in the Nissan GT Academy, I think.
He was the first winner. The most recent winner that's doing stuff at the front of motorsport is Jan Mardenborough. Obviously,
That's
we've
right.
got Shoots to Kill as well, who's won more recently, but is not quite at Mardenborough's level quite yet. But I think Mardenborough might make it to Formula 1, actually, which would be a huge coup for that competition.
Certainly been going strongly in European Formula 3 in the last couple of seasons. So, Jürg Müller, and in the 7 car, it was Seiji Ara, wasn't it? Seiji Ara, who started in 14th position and kind of didn't get much higher than that. I think it was a top 10 finish for the number 7 BMW, the Studi BMW.
That's the one that isn't at all works now, honestly.
I see. Yeah, I understand your meaning. 62 points then from 78 to 78. What a finish for GT300. Still awaiting the podium, which may be just around the corner, although I noticed that we're still being shown the points for GT300, almost as if that screen has frozen for the moment.
I believe that may have exactly what's happened, because I can't see anything moving in the background either there.
I reckon that just about draws to a close our coverage then.
I think it does, doesn't it? I think we're not going to get the podium, but there's some very happy people spraying some champagne.
Yes, you can imagine that, I'm sure, and no doubt there'll be a podium for this individual race, but also for the championship as a whole. Congratulations then to Sugio Matsuda and Ronnie Quintarelli, who take the GT500 honours in the 2014 Super GT Championship, to Nobutera Taniguchi and Tatsuya Katoka, who get by a hair's breadth, the GT300 honours in their BMW Z4, finishing level on points with the number 11 Jim Gaynor Mercedes Mercedes SLS, I should say, with Hironaka and Wertheim coming so close to the championship, but not quite for them. There's always next year, I suppose. Sam, thank you very much for your help along the way. Deputy Editor of Race Car Engineering, you've enlightened me somewhat to Japanese GT racing, and I'd love to be back for more next year. I'm sure you would.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Thank you for joining us on Nismo TV and RadioLeMans.com. And as I say, there may well be more to come next year for the 2015 season. The calendar is already out. Go and have a look at that. I think it's very similar to 2014 indeed. I wonder who will win it next year. Thanks for joining us, and stick around on Radio Le Mans for a few more races of recent times to come.
RadioLeMans.com, Motorsport's original internet broadcaster. Our world-class live coverage has been setting the standard for over a decade, and now it's even easier to listen. Just go to RadioLeMans.com. You don't need an app or a download. It's Motorsport 24 hours a day, every day. And remember, we have a huge archive of motorsport audio ready when you want to listen. Live, on demand, on download. 3 ways to listen, 1 place to go. RadioLeMans.com.